Hello, YouTube. Brandon Robinson here, and thank you for joining me as I do a fan audio commentary of the movie Tenet. I was looking around YouTube and noticed that there weren't any. I wanted to do one with a couple Redditors, just a couple strangers, and say, let's just do a collaboration one. Never got into fruition, or I got too busy, and I don't know, I never really followed up on it, so I figured I'd do one. Now, this is not pre-planned, this is not pre-rehearsed. I've never done an audio commentary before. I just thought that it would be neat to talk about something as I watch a movie. Christopher Nolan is my favorite writer-director for certain reasons of how he's really able to go the extra mile, shoot things practically, and I don't know. I love a lot of things about him. Tenet is not my favorite film of his. There are a lot of problems with the film. I don't know if I'm going to necessarily acknowledge them one way or the other. I don't know. I'm just going to watch and kind of enjoy it. We'll see if I can catch up with the movie or if I get too many bouts of silence. That being said, I'm going to watch my copy of my ultra high definition disc right now, and so if you want to cue yours up, I'm just going to start at the very beginning. So just line your disc or whatever digital, I'm sure a lot of you guys have digital copies, line it up from the very beginning. I'm going to do a countdown of 3, 2, 1, go, and on go I'm just going to hit my space bar and I'm just going to go ahead and start this thing. So if you're ready with me, I'm going to go ahead and get started here, guys. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Now, when I saw this in theaters first time, it was September 2nd, and this was early release version of this film. I had to drive to Reno. I live in Sacramento, California, and when I saw this thing, I don't know, this Warner Brothers shield's different from all the other ones, and it's a bit taller, and when I was in the theater, I thought the film was stretched or something, and I said, nah, we're not going to ruin this moment of this film for me. And I don't know, for those who do notice, especially if I'm talking to Redditors on here, you guys know that the red and blue was obviously a huge theme in this film, not just the red room, blue room thing. I know there are things involving, I don't know what they are, things involving, I don't know if it's physics or what have you, but I don't know, red is forward, blue is backward, something like that. You see Kat, one of the characters, wear different colored, items of clothing, and some are red and blue. And also that score by Ludwig Göransson, I don't know how to pronounce his name specifically, but it's forward and then backward during that opening logo part. Now, when I saw this in theaters here, I was very surprised. I didn't really have foresight? I didn't really know at the time that this film was going to open with this set piece here. I didn't know much about the film, but I did know that there was going to be a set piece here. I didn't know what it was going to be about. I didn't watch the prologue. I didn't know this was the prologue, anything like that. So it kind of surprised me when I saw it there, and I'll probably talk about it a little more later, but as we figure out, spoilers, by the way, for this whole thing, make sure that you're aware. So I'll warn you right now, spoiler warning as I talk about this, because I'll foreshadow certain elements of this movie as well. And while I'm looking right now, I'm watching John David Washington. One of my favorite shots of this film, actually, is just his intro, his very first shot when he unloads his clip from the chamber. I love that, especially with the music in the background. I don't know if it's a guitar, that the like that, and the little Travis Scott hum. What was I mentioning before, though? Oh, no, yeah, so I'm going to spoil some things here and there. I was a little disappointed when you kind of realize that this film almost is a palindrome in and of itself, not just the film's title and everything else, but they go back to previous places where they were before, such as the Oslo Freeport, such as John David Washington's character, the protagonist, goes on the freeway again, and he runs into himself kind of in a way. I was really hoping that we'd go back here again. Now, I didn't know how it would work because we didn't see anybody inverted at the time, though we see an inverted bullet. But that's pretty much the extent of it. This terrorist siege, as it actually started off, it kind of reminded me of some things from The Dark Knight Rises, from the football stadium, what have you. But this was different. I love this shot when all of them get knocked out. If you pause it, you'll see some people kind of jittering their shoulders and stuff. I don't like to lose the effect too much, but a great opening shot there for Nolan to just set the tone of, like, man, he means business here. He got a lot of people to do this thing. I love that kind of stuff. It was done better here, I'd say, than in The Dark Knight Rises when it came to a terrorist siege of any sort, the football stadium scene. I'm not as big a fan of it as other people. I like the explosion, but you know what? Part of it for me was it wasn't a full house. And something about that, it seemed like Bane was only talking to a select few people instead of an entire city, and the Gotham character wasn't huge in that one. But right here, you feel like you're with a bunch of people here, and I don't know, I really liked how this one opened up. Now again, I didn't know much about this film. I knew about this set piece because I knew this was one of the initial filming locations that he scouted, along with the Talon Freeway. But that was pretty much it. I knew John David Washington was going to be in it. I knew Robert Pattinson was going to be it. I knew Elizabeth Debicki was going to be it. I knew the film was called Tenet. I knew Christopher Nolan had something up his sleeve about international espionage, this and that. I knew nothing about time inversion. That's pretty much it. That was pretty much it there. Something that'll probably be brought up time and again here, this opening is confusing. It's confusing. You don't know who is what. There are a lot of people playing a lot of different parts here. And I don't even remember them off the top of my head. I've seen this film about 10 times and I kind of forget. But there's the Ukraine SWAT who goes in. But part of the Ukraine SWAT are also, I think, terrorists. Because they're the ones who knock out the audience. And they're going to be setting these bombs right here. So part of them are terrorists within there. And then also part of the Ukraine SWAT is John David Washington. I'll say protagonist. Is the protagonist. I call him protag when I type it out. Maybe I'll start saying protag. Is protag. As he's working for, I guess, Russians. And I don't know if those Russians are working for Sadar specifically. But they're all trying to get that plutonium where he's going for right now. He got it from the well-dressed man. The person gave him the number of his item here in the code check so he can get this, what he thinks is a plutonium case here, of course. And it turns out that it's going to be part of the algorithm, part of the piece where he's turning. You know what's funny? Sorry, I'm just going to say this really quickly. I have a camera built up on top of my computer screen here, and I'm used to looking at it because I'm a teacher. And when I teach my kids in Zoom, I keep looking up at there. Right now I'm looking at a closed lens cap, and I should just be watching this film. But maybe it's a way of me processing and thinking. So I know you can't see it. It's just kind of a funny bit. But anyway, what I was going to say with that was, this opening scene is extremely confusing. No matter how many times you watch it, you don't always fully know who is working for whom, and it's a little ominous in that way. You're hoping that this guy is working for good people, in a way. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't really emotionally invested so much because I was more or less confused. And of course, there was the audio mix. And I'm not going to get too deep into that, but I'm sure I'll talk about it here and there. My experience with the audio mix the first time was kind of poor. I don't think as much because of the film, though. The theater that I was in Reno, had poor low-frequency effects. I don't even know if there was a subwoofer kicking in, I'll be honest. I'm not sure if there was one acting at all. So it seemed like any sounds that were supposed to be low or on a separate channel just clashed with everything else, with dialogue and the music that's low frequency, and it clashed with the music, gunfire, anything was just all, it felt like it was all in the middle, or obviously even maybe a little bit of the high end. And that, combined with my thinking during this film, really gave me a little bit of a headache. And it wasn't a bad headache. It was something that I was willing to work through. It was like the best headache I've induced watching a movie. With this explosion shot, I don't know what those bits of rubble are. I'm not sure if those could really crush these guys, but awesome stunt work if so. I hope it's just not exactly hard bits, but they're maybe foamy, and then they just give the sound effects to appear that way. I don't love the transition going into this scene here. I have a lot of problems with this scene, starting with this Ukrainian guy here. Now, he's in the movie Limitless, and he was fine in that movie. I could understand him very well. But with the trains going by, not being able to see his lips all the time, slurring a couple of his words with a heavy accent, I didn't really feel out what was happening. Everyone speaks really fast, and I don't necessarily mean they have a fast tempo, but there's no break in between their lines. And I thought he was pulling out his teeth when I first saw it, but I never saw teeth on the table. You'll see a later shot in a second after the train goes by that he still has teeth in the front of his thing. So he is pulling out his teeth, but I couldn't tell. See those teeth right there in the front. Okay, so he hasn't pulled out those teeth yet, but he doesn't later either. I don't know if he had pulled all his teeth out at the time, but I was a little confused at that. I'm like, what's he doing? His teeth are still there. So I was a little confused. So anyway, I wasn't necessarily in love with this scene just going straight from, I was already confused from the beginning, and I'm still pretty confused. I understood an objective. I understood he was captured. I understood his team didn't make it out. All these different things. See, I see his bottom teeth right there. And I think they lowered the exposure of the shot as well, just to try and hide his teeth. I don't know why the shot looks like that, but that's my only guess there. I didn't understand the cyanide capsule thing either, that it was fake in the beginning either. I was actually more focused. I didn't even know it was a CIA thing, to be honest. I heard him say, "Death, CIA is you," but I had no idea what he was talking about. I thought he just meant die through torture. You know, just torture and never talk, and just that's the CIA way of doing it. See, there's teeth right there. He looks nice and clean there. But I was so focused, when this Russian guy, he's in Limitless, and he gets some pills of NZT, what is it, 48, I can't remember the number, NZT 48, I'll say, from Bradley Cooper. And so when he puts the pill in his mouth, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, he's a pill popper again. It's going to happen. So when I first saw it, I did not see this in IMAX. So this is a transition to a what is this, 65 millimeter shot, I believe. 5 perforations instead of 15. So I tried to do some guesswork as I was watching it. I bet this is IMAX. I bet this one's not IMAX. And it's probably more a level of what's in dialogue, what's not, what's a little bit of a clearer picture. But I like the framing of Nolan's 65 millimeter shots as well. I even like the colorization of it as well. I'm not the most massive fan of Nolan's use of IMAX, I'll be honest. I think that in some ways it's a detriment to his creativity. I think that it lends to excuses from needing to put masks on characters and have this big heavy action prologue set piece. He can't start with something nice and calm like in Insomnia. I can't wait to see him do smaller movies again, is kind of what I'm saying. I think that he relies on the big sound with the score and with the effects and everything else. And I get it. It's his intent. I appreciate that in some ways. But I have some reservations about ways he goes about things. And I think that that's kind of one of them when it comes to IMAX. So anyway, my dialogue was a bit inaudible the first time. But again, I think it was more of a frequency clash thing, the low end really mixing with things that people were saying. The second time I saw it, part of it is probably I saw it again, and I saw it 2 weeks later. I saw it somewhere in El Dorado Hills, that's closer to Sacramento, when it released there at a Regal Theater, and better low frequency effects. I appreciated that. Dialogue was still a little tough there. The third time though that I saw it was right in my city of Elk Grove here in Sacramento area, and it was in a significantly smaller theater at a Cinemark, and I could hear every single word. The dynamic compression was different. I'm not sure what it was, but you could hear every bit of dialogue. And some people said that, they changed the dialogue, that the producer changed it. That's not necessarily true. I expect if I went back to that first theater in Reno, that I'd still hear it the same way that I did at the time, or thereabouts. So I saw it total 5 times in theaters. They were all by myself except for the last time where I took someone else, and I was seeing her for a little while as well afterward. Both the pandemic and us working and stuff. We're close friends. We're hanging out. But I wanted to show her Tenet as well. I saw those in IMAX in Sacramento. But I saw it 5 times. And after the first 4 times, I then went and read the script. And I'll tell you what, this movie, this is one of the only, what we're watching right now is one of the only instances of real downtime in this film, of no dialogue, no exposition, maybe get to process a lot of the things that you just saw, and that's probably Nolan's intent a little bit. He lets you breathe for a little while before he meets Barbara, I think her name's Barbara, in the lab, and starts to get the exposition on time inversion and with the bullet and stuff, which I was following along with. I caught up during this scene, but what I was going to say was when I read the script, and there's not much different in the script, a couple added lines here and there, I think even a couple that you had even heard in a trailer. There was one with Priya. I'm trying to remember, I haven't seen this movie now in about a month, with Priya saying like you starting to look at the world in a new way. Like that's not in the movie anymore, but it's in the script. When he goes to their penthouse, to Sanjay and Priya's penthouse here. I was confused by this shot. I wasn't sure if he was upside down or not. I had no idea. I'm like, can you do that? But yeah, doing pull-ups. I don't know how I got confused by that. I guess his shirt would be falling down if he was upside down there. But anyway, when you read the script, if you ever have a chance to read the script, you get to, and this is, again, I'm not going to necessarily fault director or whatever, but I think it's the director's, oh, what's the word? I don't know what the word is. It's important for the director to be able to make the audience feel as much as you want them to feel. And when I read the script, everything got to slow down. And when everything got to slow down, not just I got to understand things more, but I got to feel the charm of it. I got to picture the movie in my head when I read the script. I'd seen it 4 times at that point. So Protag, as I'm going to call him, John David Washington's character, I really got to feel the charm of Protag and his involvement, and of course the involvement of Robert Pattinson's character, already forgetting his name, Neil. We're going to talk about him a lot whenever he comes on screen here. Oh, I love this here too. Took me forever to notice that the hand-folding gesture doesn't show up a lot in this movie, but Nolan makes sure to show that camera thing. He doesn't call great attention to it all the time, but he makes sure to show that that's what he's doing there. And it was good that I read the screenplay there, because I thought she says with a high vis, vest or what have you, in a clipboard you can get about anywhere. I thought he said, "And I'm scared, Tenet." And I was like, is Tenet an adverb? I had no idea what he was saying. He says an obscure tenet, an obscure tenet. In the script, it says a pretty obscure tenet, I believe. So obviously one slight change there. Again, I didn't know anything about this movie here, so when this scene happened, clearly there were bolts in the wall, nothing in the chamber. I figured what I was about to see happen was happening. But this was really cool because we just saw, we saw it earlier, obviously in the film. We saw it actually happen, but I was processing so much, I'm not even sure if I did see what I saw. So right here I said, oh, I'm going to like this movie. Like, Nolan is going to use things with this that is really cool. We like to tie this to Inception a lot, just as far as, like, it's completely original by Nolan. It's not by anyone else. It's not by a short story. Jonathan Nolan didn't contribute at all in this. Nolan's half brother, and excuse me, and so completely original by Nolan. 10 years after, the movie's called Tenet. Corporate espionage. No, that was corporate espionage. This is just espionage, international espionage and such. You wondered if this was either part of an anthology thing to Tenet, a spiritual sequel to Tenet, to Inception, an actual sequel to Inception. It turned out not to be, and I'll tell you one time where it tripped me up, and it's where it stopped me keeping caught up with the film, and it's no fault to the movie. Well, it's a little bit. I'll tell you why when we run across it. It'll be kind of soon, about 10 or 15 minutes from now. But oh shoot, what was my point with all that? Oh, so something that Inception did really well is use the mechanics of dreams for certain plots in the movie. The whole mechanics of the dreams and Inception was, spoilers for Inception, by the way, was the whole cause of Cobb's wife's death, of Mal's death. And I thought that was a really clever way of going about, using that mechanic. Also, my other favorite thing was the Mr. Charles Gambit. If you remember, if you've seen the movie, that's when Cobb goes in, Leonardo DiCaprio's character, into that second dream level in the hotel and goes sees Cillian Murphy's character, Robert Fisher, and makes him believe that, I mean, he is dreaming, but lets him aware that he's dreaming. So the projections that are following Cobb and his crew, as long as he stays with Fisher, he's making Fisher believe that suddenly they're following him for all the reasons of, his father's inheritance and his godfather's, taking control of the company kind of thing. So I thought those were really cool plot mechanics, and I was really excited for Tenet to do the same thing with time inversion. And they did it a couple ways in the palindromic nature of this movie. That was really cool. I love how Ludwig Göransson used it in his score. I thought that's fantastic. There are a lot of parts of the score that I absolutely love. There's some parts that, I don't know, there's a main theme one that I don't particularly love, but there are some of these that are just brilliant from him, and it made me okay that we didn't have Hans Zimmer. So, I don't know, it's kind of weird to say, but there's that. I don't know how to pronounce her name, this actress here. I forget if it's Clemence Poise or something. I don't know. Posey. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. I know a lot of people said she's in Harry Potter. I have seen all 8 Harry Potter movies once each. They were within a week span. I had bought the Blu-ray pack. I watched all 8 within a week. I liked them. I just haven't watched them again. I felt like if I watch them, I got to binge watch them all again. I got to watch it from the beginning, things like that. Apparently she's in it. I don't think I knew her at the time. I only knew her from In Bruges, and I like her in that. And I like her subtle performance in this. Some people say she's underacting, and I mean, kind of in a way she is. I really liked it. It was kind of cool. She comes in there with a coffee cup and stuff. I'm not saying it's cool she has a coffee cup, but she kind of had that demeanor of just like, yo, I'm chill. Like, there it is. Sorry if you hear a chime there. I just got a ping. I'm a teacher, and I just got a school email. I don't think I'll check it for now. I'll leave it at this. Now I believe we're in what city? This is Mumbai. So I did like the world traveling, but again, this movie is so fast-paced that the transitions doesn't really let you establish where you are. Sure, they had a sky shot of Mumbai and all that, but they didn't show him go on a plane. They didn't say what he's doing next, right? We don't really know. Do we know what he's doing next? Okay, he mentions in that last scene, he says something like the materials of the compounds or whatever could tell us where the bullet was originated, where it came from, and who made it. So Now he's there to talk to Sanjay Singh, who of course Priya Singh ends up being the arms dealer, but he goes to talk to them. But it's not really recognized very fast here. So I have to play catch up with Nolan a lot in these movies. I'm sure that's his intent. As you know, I saw this movie 5 times in theaters, and so he got my money. He definitely got my money for this. All right, we have Robert Pattinson in here, and I'll be honest, I've not been a Twilight watcher, but I have kind of adored the idea that Pattinson also is not an avid Twilight fan himself, so I kind of have appreciated what I've been able to see him in since. I more recently just saw Water for Elephants, actually, and I'm not saying, oh, he was great in it or anything like that, but I enjoyed watching him in Water for Elephants. I think it was before he was announced to be Batman or to be in Tenet, actually, when I did see it. One of my favorite ones that I saw him in was the movie Good Time. And I like the movie enough, but it's tenfold more impressive when you watch Robert Pattinson and you're telling yourself it's him and you can't convince yourself of it. You're staring the guy right in the face, and the way that he looks, the way that he sounds, the way that he comports himself and everything, it's not Robert Pattinson. Oh man, this is a shot like The Dark Knight. You know, so I keep saying that I didn't really see anything on this movie. I went in this film blind, and I essentially did. But when I went to go see The Rise of Skywalker, I didn't see it to see the prologue of this beforehand, but there was a trailer beforehand, and there was that shot of zooming in onto that, onto Sanjay's, his crib, his pad, his penthouse, his building, his place of residence there, and something told me that was Tenet. So what happened was, and I do this a lot, it's kind of sad, but I plugged my ears, I closed my eyes, went la 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 la, and I stormed out of the theater waiting for the thing to end. I'm like, I know this is for Tenet. Don't tell me why, but I know this is for Tenet. So I just got out of there, and I said, even if it's not, oh well. Once I saw that shot, I was like, yep, I know this is Tenet. I love this moment here. I'm a little saddened that it doesn't lead. It's a cool action shot. I'm a little saddened that it doesn't lead to much. You know, they kill a couple guys and then they have a conversation on the balcony and like that's it. Everything's hunky dory. This isn't as much of like The Dark Knight where they go and capture what's his name? Lau. They go and capture Lau, and it's kind of this big event thing. It kind of falters in the end. It's just, you know, after he gets him here, it's kind of like, oh, all that for that, huh? Interesting. Well, they killed a couple of their men as well. But, you know, with that shot, Robert Pattinson's character, his name's Neil. So Neil talks to him about bungee jumping. He first talks about parachuting out of the building. And he says, well, I think it's bungee jumpable or whatever. And then he says, like, well, it's the only way of probably getting out of there or getting into there for that matter. And at that moment, I was not fully here as far as what is inverted and how the time inversion stuff works. I was thinking that if Protag could just think it, then he could make it happen. So when they were saying bungee jumping into it, I was thinking, oh, he's going to think of inverting himself in. They sort of do, but I meant like actually break the laws of physics and like just, you know, how she said like, how Barbara said like, you had to have dropped the bullet first, so he has to envision kind of the backwards of dropping it, therefore it goes up into his hand kind of thing. He does the motion. So I was thinking, all he has to do is think of like, he had to have jumped off the balcony, and then boom, he's just going to end up in there. So I'll be honest, I'll front. I was very lost in this movie when it came to inversion stuff for a while. Even that first fight, the forward-backwards fight, I almost thought they were both reverse fighting. It was weird and hard to explain. I couldn't tell. I think as at one point, Protag reaches for a gun that flies into his hand. So I was like, oh, they're both reverse fighting. What am I supposed to be expecting here? Here's another Tenet gesture right there. And I guess it's obvious there because it goes into it, but it also shows the gun to Sanjay's head. So I didn't know what I was supposed to be looking for there. But of course, she talks about the tenets someone lives by there. All right, so now I have some downtime here. What to talk about? So, you know, this beginning of every time I watch a Nolan film, I do feel that the movie rushes a lot of things. And I think his beginnings from The Dark Knight onward have had rushed bits. I do feel like, except for Inception, and Inception feels like it has a natural progression. I felt like I followed that movie quite fine. And I felt like everything was established very well. And it was slow enough paced. And you understood what the goal was. But The Dark Knight... not Inception. The Dark Knight Rises. Interstellar definitely wasn't fast, but I felt like they went to space a lot faster than I expected them to. I expected them to go about halfway through the film. So when they went in, I was like, isn't he supposed to have a training montage and go up into space after that? So I guess that's not fast either. Okay, I take it back. Only The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises seem to have been the only fast ones, because Dunkirk wasn't necessarily fast either. But Tenet gave me that reminder of, he's going to jump scene to scene here. And what often happens, oftentimes the second, and I think this was true here, oftentimes the second time I see a Nolan film is my favorite time of seeing it, because I see it the first time, I'm immersed, I enjoy what I'm watching, I'm confused at the same time, but I'm acknowledging these things of like, too fast, let me catch up, and like, gee, I wouldn't have gone about it that way. So when he detaches from this, bungee cord right here and just leaves, I thought he's going to have a conversation with Neil and blah, blah, blah. Nope. Daytime. Different. He's in London now. You can see the UK flag. He's in London now. He's going to go see Michael Caine, and I'll talk about that in a second as well. And if you guys don't know this, I didn't know this until recently. If you guys have seen the movie Following, this host, if you will, is the main character. I forget if he had a name in the movie. There was a character, Cobb, in the movie who he followed, but I don't think he had a name, and that's that guy right there. I didn't know it was him. I saw an interview with him recently, and that's when I found out that it was him. Anyway, so I always felt like no one would go fast in these instances, and I always think to myself whenever I watch a movie, I'm like, how will a rewatch go for me? And for me, the first time through, as I'm watching, I'm like, man, this first time, it goes fast, which is good, but I'm sitting there thinking like, man, get to the whatever. And not saying get to the action, but just, they're going so fast that I don't know if this part's for me. And yet, later on, I end up loving these parts almost just as much. And what I really like about this movie, and I forget when the timestamp comes when we see inversion really happen again. It's around the 45-minute mark. But I really like that how much Nolan reserved himself in this. He tries to get you engaged in some story, whatever story it is, of all this fetch quest stuff, of getting the painting and, all that kind of stuff. He talks to someone who tells him to go talk to someone, all that stuff. And he tries to get you invested in a plot. And I'm not saying he failed or anything, but he distracts you from that inversion piece. So when it happens again, it's like, oh yeah, crap, this is a part of the movie. Now, this thing with Michael Caine as he goes in, as he goes in to see Michael Caine. Clearly, Michael Caine's been in a lot of Nolan's movies. He was even voice. He was Fortis Leader 1 in Dunkirk. He was heard in Dunkirk as one of the Royal Air Force members. I hope I don't have to drink my water or anything. But when he's in there, you start questioning, asking yourself to be sure, is this tied with Inception? Is this Miles, Leo's wife's father, who was undercover the whole time, and now he's British intelligence? And I didn't think of it much, honestly. I was thinking more of the story. I was trying to listen to everything. But Michael Caine's character, or Michael Caine, says this part. He's talking about secret Soviet cities or something like that, right? And then Protag mentions, they were redressed or renamed or something like that after being buried under rubble. I forget, or like they were evacuated and they were renamed. And then Michael Caine says the line, "Not the one Sador grew up in." And I know that Andrei Sador was mentioned by Priya earlier. I'll be honest, I didn't recognize she was saying a person's name. They talked about a Russian oligarch and stuff. I didn't know she said her name, so I didn't know the name Sador at all. Sator. And so he says, not the one Sador grew up in. But he has an English accent. So it sounds like he says, not the one Saito grew up in. And if you know Inception, Ken Watanabe's character's name is Saito. So as I'm watching this movie, I'm getting myself in this story. It's making sense. I'm following along. I think it's a little fast, but I'm getting it. And then he says, not the one Saito grew up in. And I hit a wall. And I put my head in my hand and I'm like, holy crap, wait a second. Is this an Inception sequel? Is this in the Inception universe? And I lost myself in that moment. And I'm not listening to anything anymore. I'm not listening to the fact that there's this fake Goya drawing, blah, 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 with Tommaso Repo, who forged the painting and stuff. I heard the name, but I didn't know who was what anymore. I didn't see Repo's face, so I didn't know who he was. I was getting completely lost because now I'm starting to think about the whole British intelligence thing. I'm like, wait, is Miles British intelligence now? Was he undercover as this thing? And I was thinking, and if that was the case, why is Saito in Russia. Why was he living in Russia during a time when he clearly had he lived somewhere in I think he lived somewhere. Well, actually, I don't know if he lived somewhere in Japan or somewhere or not. But so I lost myself at that moment, and I couldn't catch up because this movie, for the longest time, does not allow you to catch up again. And I just noticed something. I just watched that shot. I wish I could rewind this, but I'm in a commentary with you guys. If you rewind this, I just noticed this. There was a fisheye mirror behind. It's kind of behind. If you look at the next shot we do, it's going to be behind Kat's head, blurred in the background, right back there. That's a fisheye mirror. And I think Nolan's doing a trick for us because I'm sure there's not a camera in the shot. So just, yeah, right there. So I just noticed it right now, and I'm wondering, did Nolan do a trickery thing to take the camera out of the shot like he does in that one Inception scene? Like right there. I don't see a camera, do you? So it's a little less soft there. Pretty nice shot. I like that, assuming that's a mirror. A convex mirror. What did I call it? A fisheye mirror? Maybe that's not a mirror. I can't tell anymore. It wasn't as soft and blurry as it is now. Anyway, so now we're getting a little more, I don't know, you can call it exposition. I really like this scene. I do. This is one of the moments, again, when you read the script, after you've seen the movie, even a couple times, because you want to feel out and place the moments that you're doing. When you read the script here, you really feel out the words, and you play the music in your head. I don't know if you know the music in this moment. Go turn up your movie if you want to. You play the music in your head, and you hear Kat speaking from this personal thing. It almost brought me to tears. It's hard to explain. I'm not emotionally invested in this film. Nolan did not, to me, he did, and he probably did it intentionally, but he did not convey the job of getting me emotionally invested, and I think he could have. I think it would have had to require more runtime. I personally think there are times where music gets in the way of emotional investment. There are times there's one time I can speak of in Inception that I think really does that. This movie I think does that a couple times as well. The quick pacing thing doesn't let us know who people are. And Kat is the one character we get to know who she is a little bit by circumstance and out of sympathy. We really feel for her in her situation. Granted, her motivator in this film is something we don't get to connect with much. She wants to have her son. She wants to get back to her son. She wants to, Max is the only thing that's important to her. But there's only one shot, and we just saw it in the shot where Kat sees someone dive off the boat. You get a quick shot of Max right there. That's one shot I had to pay attention to kind of piece clues to something else that I like to believe. But it was something where I felt like that's the only time that we get to see Max's face. There's never really a time. You see his blonde hair, you see his little kid, you see her pick him up out of school. There's a time when he speaks and says something like, "We're going to go to Pompeii and see lava." And by the way, I thought he said larva. You know when I thought that they said Sado instead of Sador? Well, I thought they were saying larva instead of lava. Duh, Mount Vesuvius, Pompeii. I don't know why he'd go see larva in Pompeii, but there's that. That's his only line in the film. So it's kind of an interesting bit, saying that we're supposed to care, I guess, because we want Kat to survive. We want her to succeed, I guess. She wants to get back to her son, I guess, but who's her son? I guess his name's Max. He is the blonde-haired kid, and we want a mother to be with her son. But that's it. We're told it. We're told it, we're not shown it. And I think that's one of those moments where it would be nice to get more moments with Max, but then it does lead me to this other time of we can be emotionally invested if something that I believe to be true in this movie really actually is true. And I'll get into it later, but of course if you've read anything about anything for this movie, it's the possibility that Neil and Max are one the same. And I'm going to have to point to some clues. A lot of clues have already passed by. They've already come and gone. They have. But I'll try and point to some as I see them, but of course I'm a rambler. I'm sure I was talking about something else and I already lost my thought about it again. I ordered my hot sauce an hour ago. I chuckled and cringed at the same time at that line. I did. And that's not in the script, by the way. Some people say it's improvised. I don't know if the word is improvised as much as it's not in the screenplay. It's unwritten. Maybe it's not Nolan's line. Maybe it is his line. But there's another shot that you see him. There's a B-roll shot where you see him do it. He's yelling more, "I ordered my hot sauce an hour ago." So it's not like, hey, there's that one take when they did it. Oh, the cheese grater. I love this. You know what I did like about this scene? is it really started to cement Nolan's ability to, because he directs, he doesn't have second assistant director or anything like that. So I thought that this was a well shot action scene. It's short, but I thought, man, if Batman had this kind of grit in his shots, and it doesn't have to be shaky cam, but it looked well choreographed, it looked believable. I liked the music with it, that little guitar, it's kind of cool. Looks great in the suit. And I don't know. I was thinking, man, if you went back to direct Batman movies again, would the action look better, especially in Batman Begins. Speaking of the suit, well, not the suit, but speaking of appearance, oh, here's his line. You can kind of see his face there. We are going to go to Pompeii and see lava. Larva? Yeah, that's the last time you see his face. I think you see shots of him again, but that's the last time you see his face, I think, in the movie. That's the only line he has. You had one job, little Max. You had one job. Let's see. I wanted to talk about the thing. It sounds dumb. It's irrelevant. When he's supposed to clean up and look like a billionaire or whatever, artist collector. Not for nothing. I wish he took on more of a different appearance than just a more expensive suit. And I'll be honest, I wouldn't know the difference between the Brooks Brothers suit that he had, whether it actually was or not, and the $1 billion suit that he has now, whatever you'd call it. But, if he cleaned up a little more, if he shaved, something to just say, hey, he's going to change his impression and look and something like that. I mean, his beard is immaculate, actually. It's the most perfect beard I've ever seen. It's almost too perfect. It's almost jarring and weird in that way. Oh, by the way, this is the score that I don't care for as much of until it ramps up a little bit. I don't care as much for the... I know a lot of people love it. I don't care for it. I'm not saying I don't like it. I don't care for it. I really liked a lot of the side actors they had for this one, too. I like this guy. This guy who's talking to Neil, especially when he has his line if I showed you, then we'd be trapped, or then we'd suffocate. And his, we value nothing else above our client's property. I can't do his accent. I liked the little side characters in this. I liked, and it took me forever to notice it was Aaron Taylor Johnson, but I liked Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. I liked Barbara. I liked Clemens Posey's character. I like this guy, short-lived as he is. His lines even, not muted. Drowned out by the dialogue even right here. But no, I liked him. Very cheery, not too going like, what are you getting at, boy? Are you scoping us out? Are you casing us? He's nice. He's nice, I wanted him to survive what would happen. He survived. I'm sure he's fine. So we're getting into a moment in the film where things pick up for the better, kind of for everyone. People are invested now. They're saying, all right, we're going to get a heist going. We're going to steal a painting. I love it. We're going to make something happen. This is Nolan's bit of expertise in a way. He likes to set things up with the montages. I like these montage scenes. This is the one time where I am always a fan of him having music in the background. When it's blending from scene to scene where he's creating montage. He's been doing montages since, I don't even know if Batman Begins had as much montages other than when Bruce Wayne becomes Batman. But The Prestige even had montages. The Dark Knight has montages. Inception, they all have montages. And all those montage moments are really good. Nolan's really good at going from one scene to another, integrating them, intertwining them. They could be completely unrelated, or they could transition from one bit of conversation to another, almost as if they, as Ryan George does in his pitch meeting video, says we're going from one place to another. We're going to drive there and continue our conversation. But he's really good at not losing you in the moment. He's keeping it light on its feet, and I do like it for these things, even if it's exposition. It does, and I'm not saying it's boring right now, but it totally keeps it from being boring. I love every single bit of this. Who's this guy coming up? Mahir. Who's the guy who plays Mahir? Nick something? I don't know his name. It might be Nick something. I can't remember. He's in Yesterday. He was really good in Yesterday, and I like him in this movie. Again, I like the side guys in these movies. They're good. What's the problem? They'll be fine. I enjoy it. I hope you're enjoying this commentary. This is me. I clearly did not plan this. I'm going from bit to bit. I have no idea what I want to talk about next, but we are getting into the first not the first heist, I guess. Are there more heists? I don't know. I'm trying to think of the movie now and piece it together. But the heist scene, which is, this is probably one of my favorite moments in the film, this sequence-wise, going from the start of planning this heist to go into the heist to the inverted fight. That's all a great time in the film, and then we get introduced to Sador. I'm not saying I disapprove that moment or whatever, but we introduce ourselves to the villain, so it's nice there. But the movie does slow down a little bit there until they get to Talon, I'd say. But I'm digging these moments here. I'm liking them very much. I'm trying to understand what they're doing. They do go a little fast. Again, it's part of the montage thing. They do go a little fast. I'm just trying to figure out exactly what's happening. I got kind of confused when Kat was talking about Freeport. She's like, they're at the airport. She's like, do you know what a Freeport is? I'm like, I don't know what a Freeport is. And she's talking about it, and a lot of words are going in ways. Import, tax-free, import. I still don't know what a Freeport is specifically. And I guess it's a warehouse. But where there's an airport, I guess as well. It kind of struck me as odd, though. Why would collectors want to... I mean, wouldn't they want to showcase this to, like, people in their house? I know that it costs money, but, I mean, they can afford it. Come on. But I wouldn't want to pay for something, put it up somewhere, and say, you see that? That's mine. It doesn't feel like it's mine as much, property-wise. Maybe I'm misinterpreting what a Freeport actually is. That they can legally import things and have them tax-free, and they can do it from Freeport to Freeport, what have you. It just kind of confused with the Freeport airport business. I'm not sure what, like, it looks top end for sure. And very, very secure with all these vault doors, of course. This is my first stopping point. I don't even know what to say. I like this bit. I don't know how to say it. I don't like when movies do that thing where, not, like, of course, we're in the know that someone's, like, posing as someone else they're not supposed to be, like they're posing as, you know, flight crew. But they're kind of awkward when they do it. It's not as bad in this film as all, and at all. And I can't give a good example of another one. Actually, I'm thinking of one right now with Now You See Me 2. I think the movie's called Now You See Me 2, where they're doing that card trick thing. If you've seen Now You See Me 2, you know what I'm talking about. The card trick scene. The card trick scene. And they're obviously overacting. I never like that in movies. I mean, they do it in every movie under the sun, especially like Disney movies and stuff. It's the overacting bit where we're like, come on, guys, we already know that you guys are planted in this thing. We know that. We're in the know. Hey, the moon is in the background. Is that the moon or is that a light? Might be a light facing the other way. Clearly, we're in the know. Don't make it sound so obvious to us where we're like, okay, clearly they'd think something's up. I mean, clearly they'd think something's up. And that whole vegetarian line, it's not like that, but it reminds me of it a little bit. Like, hey, is this vegetarian? I'm not sure this is vegetarian, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I was excited for the scene for the plane crash thing. I'll be honest, a little underwhelmed. It goes through a little slow. But of course, they can't destroy, they can't blow up everything. They want to be safe. I'm sure they were well aware of what they could do. I was anticipating this big, nice, run it into something, and I'm like, Nolan's really going for it, man. It's a little weak in my opinion. I'm glad there's explosion and stuff, and it kind of does make me wonder, like wow, they needed to do that big, like they need to get this big of an item to cause the fire. Like, I don't know. I guess so. I believe it. But the first time I'm watching it, I'm like, that's what they needed to cause the fire? They need to bump the building? And look, they go through that part, but, I mean, it's a little slow. I was hoping they'd really fly through it, man. Not, like, no pun intended, like, not actually fly, not literally, but actually get through that building and really have the plane blow up, or, I don't know, a little bit faster here, a little bit faster. But I guess there's a camera on the plane. I guess they want to get the film footage. And I guess that, I don't know if they built that section there or if they promised they'd rebuild it after they crashed it, but clearly they couldn't destroy this whole area. I think this is an actual airport, so they couldn't, you know, there's planes taking off on the other side of this thing, so they couldn't do too much here. And, you know, people ask where the money went for this $205 million movie, and I mean, a lot of it's probably for this scene alone. If you watch the behind the scenes, not just of the scene in and of itself, but if you watch the behind the scenes of this film, you understand where the money went. Would you agree that all the money needed to be spent on those things? Not necessarily, but you will see where the money was spent on this stuff. Everything shot practically, building a lot of sets, buying a plane and crashing it into the building. And, you know, you see that moment, you're like, yeah, I guess it was okay. I guess it was an okay moment. It was okay. I was a little underwhelmed there. But I'm excited for this part as I'm watching it the first time. And I'm saying, all right, let's do some stuff. Let's hold our breath. And I was holding my breath with them, and I loved it. Um, it took me several watches, though, to be perplexed. You know, sometimes you're focusing on one thing and not the other. And when I'm watching this, I'm forgetting almost like I think they're going toward getting a painting right now when I'm watching the first time, but the future times, because I know that they go into the vault room in the middle, and I think they are trying to go and find that painting probably a little bit among trying to see what other inverted material there is. Neil doesn't, quote unquote, doesn't know there's inverted material, at least not according to ProTag, but he's hoping to find some inverted gadgetry, inverted bullets, and see what Sador's really up to. What stuff does he have hiding under there, alongside the painting to help for Cat, to help Cat. So I'm thinking of the painting, and then the inverted fight happens, and I'm sitting there thinking about, the whole concept of, are they both fighting backwards? I got a little lost. I'll have to see if ProTag catches an inverted gun, and I guess he could do that, because that's the part I couldn't really understand in the physics. If he catches one, then that means he'll had to have thrown it. So I guess that's the concept, is that he knows the gun's inverted, so he's imagining himself throwing it, and that's why it went backwards. But for some reason, I was thinking he was backwards fighting with them. So when we're fighting them again, I'm going, oh, great, we get to watch it forwards. And I'm like, this still feels backwards. And then I realized, oh, one's inverted. I don't know how I didn't figure that out. I'm kind of an idiot when it comes to this stuff. Rodas is the security company, an anagram of Sador. And what? Wait, Rodas? Wait, opera? Wait, Rodas? Oh, sorry, that's not for opera. Tenet, opera. Oh, right. It's all the words. Sador, opera, Rodas, Tenet, and help me out here. Arepo make up the Sador square. I'm not going to get deep into that. I don't know a lot about it. All I know is, obviously, Nolan was influenced by it a lot. What point was I going to make with something about inversion? Oh, yeah. So, at this point, I forgot about the painting. I mean, I'm sure that's kind of Nolan's intent. You forget about the painting. But when I rewatch it again, I forget it again about the fact that they're supposed to steal a painting. I keep wondering in my head each time I go to a rewatch, and then I forget when it happens. Now I've seen it enough, I know. I'm like, wait, was the painting in the room? Did they just steal the painting in the room and do something? Did I not notice when the painting was actually taken? And clearly the painting wasn't ever taken, but I mean, did I miss the moment when they were trying to find the painting, is what I mean. And when I read the screenplay again, it kind of got me more in the know of, like, he was trying to find it in here. He assumed, based off what Kat said, that the painting was likely in this room because it was unmarked. It was the middle of the pentagonal vault-shaped thing, and there's nothing in there, at least to be shown. So inventory-wise or what have you, or blueprint-wise. So they're figuring everything secret's in there, and clearly there's something secret in here. He's fighting someone inverted. And this is fault of mine as well. Even when I was watching, because I was feeling the backwards bits, I had trouble, and I shouldn't, and I'd love to take myself out of this. I don't know if I can, but I have trouble sometimes going like, gosh, I don't know how to explain it. Like, clearly they shot this part forwards, clearly they shot this part backwards, you know what I mean? And the more I think about these fight scenes, the more I see it. Like, oh, clearly this part's forwards right here, It's kind of hard to explain that way, and I'm thinking about those things. Like, that feels backwards. Like, that feels backwards. That feels backwards. So I'm kind of confused, and clearly they are backwards, and obviously they had to reverse some things, but they felt backwards too, because as one's supposed to be forward and the other's supposed to be backwards, this happens a lot in the final scene, of course, because they have forward and backwards together. It bothered me when I'm going like, oh, clearly this is shot backwards. Like, I know the secrets of the moment. There were some parts I didn't know how he filmed it. Now I think I know, but it was really cool. The first time I watched this movie, I was so impressed with this. I was like, I didn't know if I loved or hated this movie or anything. I had no actual liking impression of this film. I just knew that I was a little obsessed over it in a way. I knew that I was a little like, I don't know how he shot this stuff. I was like, I want to learn more about it. So a lot of those things were taking place, and I knew I had to rewatch it. And the second time through, I got to kind of assess it. And listen, as far as favorite Nolan films, I put this on the lower end. I like it. I'm still obsessed by it. But without the emotional impact, without whatever else, it's not among my favorites. He has 11 films, and I think this is number 7 for me. I can't remember the exact order. I don't have like an order. I think my favorite's Inception. I really hold Interstellar in high regard. The final third, I acknowledge the final third's meaning for the sci-fi stuff, but compared to everything else that I saw in the movie, I liked the first 2/3 of the movie a little bit more for Interstellar, or the final act, maybe the final fifth, not the final third. because I'm fine when they go see. I don't want to give a lot of spoilers, so I'm not going to say anything there. You're here for Tenet, but above Tenet for sure for me would be Inception, The Dark Knight. I think The Dark Knight Rises, unless I moved it down for any reason. I'm putting Dark Knight Rises lower and lower. I like the film, but there are a lot of flaws with it. Look, I like every Nolan film. I like every Nolan film, absolutely. I'm trying to think of his movies now. The Prestige, Memento, those are all above it. Gosh, what are his movies? I think Dunkirk is a notch below for me, just a notch below. Part of it being PG-13 was a bit. I mean, I like to defend its PG-13ness, but I like Tenet more than Dunkirk, I'd say. I think Dunkirk is a masterclass of filmmaking. I think this movie's a masterclass of filmmaking as well. Just the rewind and fast forward stuff. When I can tell it pulls me out because I'm thinking about it then, and I wish it didn't. So that's what I'm saying. I wish he found a way to composite two different shots together and do that, but with the handheld camera movement, you can't really do that. What else do I like more than that? I don't know if Batman Begins is above Tenet. I don't think it is. Okay, the ones below Tenet for me that I'd say are Dunkirk, Following, Insomnia, and Batman Begins. How about that? Let's put it that way. Not in that order, but I think those are my 4 below. So anything else is above there. So that I'm talking about Memento, The Prestige, The Dark Knight Rises, Interstellar. And wait, did I say Dunkirk was on one or the other? I can't remember. Maybe Tenet's a number 8 or number 6 film. I don't know. I don't like Priya's score either. I don't know if it's playing right now because I'm not listening to the movie. I'm just watching it. I know what's happening, but I'm not a fan of Priya's score either. I'm not. I'm just gonna say I'm not. I don't love the Priya scenes either. I mean, as far as like low and high end and stuff, I think it's a little too. I mean, everything's exposition-y. They're speaking in tongues a little too much sometimes for me. I don't know. I don't love those scenes. I don't love them. Again, everything's on a relative scale, though. I'm engrossed by everything in this movie when I'm watching it. So, there's that. Something I'll mention before I forget it. Well, I'm sure I'm going to remember it later, but I'll have other things to talk about when I see it. I talked about the IMAX stuff. I am only a fan of watching Nolan films with the IMAX stuff if it is in a true, authentic 15 perforated 70 millimeter IMAX screen. That means that it's as big as it can get. It's on film, and I'm getting the highest resolution possible. It is so super huge clarity, and the sound, and you're close to it, but not too low angle and stuff. I love it there. I do not enjoy the Limax bit, and I also do not enjoy the home video aspect ratio switching. And personally, I don't know, I can't claim this for sure because only Nolan is Nolan. However, I'm one of those people who kind of more firmly, I love this shot and this music stuff. I like this part. I'm a little more convinced that, I don't think that Nolan stays true to his word when he talks about the immersion in IMAX for me is for those big IMAX screens. I think that's the only time where my immersion in IMAX is not lost when we switch aspect ratios like it just did for me right here. This pulls me out. It does. And what I've been doing, a lot of people I know are against this. What I've been doing is I've been cropping his movies. If you watch these digitally, if you're watching yours digitally right now, then yours is already cropped to a 2.2 to 1 aspect ratio. I'll be honest, I'm also not a fan of the 2.2 to 1 aspect ratio. I cropped this movie. I'm not watching it cropped right now, but I cropped this movie to a 2.4. I wanted to do consistent with all the other ones that I cropped that way, The Dark Knight Rises, and Interstellar and Dunkirk. So I did Dunkirk that way as well, which had a 2.2 to 1. So he's been doing that because he's been shooting on 65 millimeter, and I don't know much about film stock and all that, but I guess this is the natural aspect ratio of it, so he maintains it. But I think he leaves a lot of headroom in his shots here, and I get a more cinematic feel when, not just when it's wider, but I get the more cinematic feel when it is a aspect ratio that I'm comfortable and familiar with. I'm comfortable with 1.78, 1.85, 2.35, 2.39, and 2.40. And anything else to me is a little, I don't know, it's a little different. And the switching for me, I don't like the switching. That's just me. So on home video, I like a different home video experience. I'm just playing, the one on UHD though, I did not create a crop for. I did it for the Blu-ray. The UHD, I don't know how to get past the There are issues with encoding in the HDR and wide color gamut and stuff. I can't figure that stuff out. But right now, as I'm watching the UHD, I am actually watching it on an SDR monitor, ultra wide. It's 31.5 inches, and I'm using something. This isn't about the movie, I'm sorry. I'm using something that's converting this to HDR to SDR, and it works very well. I just wish that I could encode it this way as well to get that pristine quality and the crop stuff. And in case you're wondering, I don't center crop these films, which means every single shot I scrutinize and go through each bit, and I find out what my favorite version of that frame is. And it took me about 30 hours for this movie because I did it for the whole 2.5-hour film. And a lot of the IMAX has a lot of ups and downs as far as moving the picture that I wanted to do. I'm going to get off that thing in just a moment. I was going to say one more thing about it. I forgot what it was suddenly. So my point I was going to make was, I'm talking about you can tell this backwards, you can tell this forward. I realized one thing in when I noticed that shots are backwards that are jarring to me, and it's not always the people movement. It's the camera movement. I especially notice in the final scene. As I'm trying to fit a frame when it's all shaky and you see soldiers running and all that stuff, I really noticed when I played those shots over and over and the camera's shaking all over, because you know what a cameraman does? When it jolts, they try and correct on their own. So the first part's fast that jolts and the second part's slow when they go the other way. When you reverse that, it looks unnatural. And when you're not in the IMAX shot thing, it's even more jarring because it's less a picture, so there's more focused on, movement there. So that gets a little jarring in that way, and that's what I noticed. It's the camera movement that's in reverse that bugs me most about the movement. It wasn't them actually moving backwards, and that's what made me say, you can tell this is backwards, you can tell this is forward, whenever it's a handheld shot. Anyway, it was at this time that I finally realized for sure, that we were not talking about Sato, at least the scene before, when Kenneth Branagh comes on screen. Branagh, I don't know how to pronounce him. Branagh. When he comes on screen with his Russian accent, like, okay, this is not an Inception sequel. It took me this long to be certain of it. One thing that I liked about this movie, again, I talked about how he reserved himself with inversion up until that inversion fight. He wasn't using any inversion at the time. He's not going to use inversion for a while right here. They're going to talk inversion and stuff. But not much inversion until we get into the freeway scene. So again, I like that. He held off for a long time and saves it for the latter half of the film. It's something you can look forward to. You're not oversaturated by it. I don't know if that's the word. You're not oversaturated by it. This is me, commentary stuff. I'm not good at this. And you get to invest in story, which was kind of nice. And I like that about the film. It makes me look forward to that first third of the film, first act that I said what my first time through is always jumpy and it's weird, and I'm like, will I like this as much? Yes, I like it. I like the first part. This part slows down for me a little bit. It does. What I like, though, is that Nolan held off showing Sador for a long time, so you get to focus on your good guys, the protagonist. Literally, the protagonist, that's his name. You get to focus on that stuff. You hear about him, and legend looms large, and I like that kind of thing. They do the exact same thing in Casino Royale. You see Lashif in the beginning of the movie in Casino Royale, but he doesn't really get his true proper introduction until a lot later. You get a true proper introduction of Lashif a lot later in the film, and you're saying, you hear all this stuff about him, you figure out who he is in that way. Same thing kind of happens in, a lot of movies do this, where they kind of hold off for them in a while. See, when you hit Quantum of Solace for Bond, you go straight to the villain. The movie's a lot shorter, and you go straight to that guy. I forget his name. I'm sorry. Starts with a G, Green something, I can't remember. But he's right in the beginning of the film, and it's like, quick introduction. But of course, it's a part two, which doesn't feel like a part two because it's not directed by, I forget what his name is. Not directed by Campbell. What's his name? Campbell? Martin Campbell. And it's directed by Mark Forster, a guy who never directed an action film and couldn't edit something for his life. Not a fan of this scene. I think it's just out there. I feel like it's just there to be there. Like, they could have had this conversation any other time. I felt like it was Nolan doing his thing. But anyway, I like how, again, they reserved showing Sador for a long time. So legend looms large. He's this oligarch guy. Kat's been talking about him, all this stuff. You intentionally don't show shots of him for a long time. I didn't know it was Kenneth Branagh. Remember, I thought maybe it was Ken Watanabe. I didn't know. So it's kind of nice to kind of hold off for a while and get that. And now he'll make an impact in the film. And it's kind of funny. I mean, when you really do count and narrow it down, I guess there are a lot of encounters between Protag and Sator. But there were some times after watching the movie that I feel like, was this really earned in the way that, they have this... Clearly they have a beef with each other, but, they have this feud, like, we're going to take it personal to each other. In the end, I'd say the answer is yes. There are some downtime things where he doesn't really see him again for a while. So it's not kind of that, it doesn't feel like a personal beef to me. But there are a lot of times during these moments here where it feels like Protag is really, up in his business, So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. Yeah, I couldn't tell what they were saying in this scene. After I read the screenplay, I could tell. And you know what? The third time watching the movie, as I said, I could tell what they were saying, which was good. I could actually I heard every single word of this movie, I think, the third time I watched it, pretty much, or what I thought I heard. I wasn't like, what are they talking about? Do I remember what they're talking about now? No, they're talking about the plutonium stuff, where it's missing and whatever, and I think, I don't know, Sator has his hands on it, whatever. It's not really plutonium, of course. If you've seen the movie, of course, and spoilers, it's part of the algorithm. But that concealedness of being plutonium. Anyway, as far as reserving villains, another movie that I think of that reserves the villain really well for a while was Mission Impossible 3 with Philip Seymour Hoffman's character Owen Davian. There's a nice scene early on where Lawrence Fishburne, who's, I don't know, director of this of the IMF, talking to Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise's character, and talking about how dangerous this man is. And it's important to talk something up in a movie. To me, I'm not a screenwriter by any means. I'd love to write a film, but these are the things I'd have to think about. It's important to build something up before you see execution of it. And I remember explaining this to someone when I was talking about The Dark Knight Rises, saying like, I don't really believe Selena as this person who can take down these people and is well-known gymnast and stuff. Just because we see her do it, you want to establish it somehow and say that she does train or something, that like when Bruce goes into her place, that you see her, that you see a punching bag, that you see something. It's instead it just seems like, oh, she can just do it. She can just do it. And that's one of the moments where I said, I was talking on a message board to other people about this. Was a long time ago. This was on the IMDb message boards. And I like make this mention of like, you want to build something up before it happens. So you are kind of believing of it and it kind of, you feel it. You feel it. And Kat talking up Sator really does that, I think. I think everyone else talking about him, I think it really does build it up enough. It makes him a bit scary. And Kenneth Branagh, who had a very nice guy approach in Dunkirk with the British accent, turns into this Russian guy who's a little, he's a little over the top. It's kind of weird how Nolan thought of him more as a Batman villain than a Bond villain. I don't see that, but I'll try every so often. Is that a tiger thing on his thing? He talks about the tiger later. See a tiger in the eye. I forget the line. And you reveal its nature. But anyway, in Mission Impossible 3, they do that really well. And what I made mention of was like, in The Dark Knight Rises, how I don't feel Selena as being this like flippin' gymnast kicking people's butt kind of thing, was like, I made the connection to the movie National Treasure. And I said, in National Treasure, there are two instances early on in the film, well, not necessarily early on, but there are two instances earlier on in the film where they make mention to Nicolas Cage's character. His name is Ben Thomas. I don't remember their last name, but Ben. They make mention to his character where like FBI or CIA or whatever breaks into his house. They have a warrant. They're busting into his home and collecting evidence of stuff. And they read that like, oh, he had he went to college for divers scuba certificate, blah, 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 blah. He's a national diver, pro diver. I forget what they say specifically, but something about him being a diver. And then later in the film, Nick Cage's character goes and barters for collateral, gives up his diver's watch to borrow like a $20 bill to show his friend something about, I don't know, about where to find something. I don't know, a piece. If you see National Treasure, it's all about clues to things. I like that movie. But he talks about, oh, this is my diver's watch, that whatever. You're exposed to twice the idea that Nick Cage's character is a diver. And it sounds dumb, but when you mention it, now when he has this moment where he has to do a 40, 50-foot dive off a naval ship, you believe it. You understand that that's a part of who he is. He can't just do it, and he can't do it right before where he says something like, it's okay, I'm a diver. Because now it's convenient. So you want to set these things up naturally. They don't have to fly in your face. They just come in dialogue, and it's a perfect way that they did in National Treasure. And The Dark Knight Rises didn't have that same kind of thing with Selena Kyle. And it's not to say that, like, oh, women can't do these kinds of things. Of course they can. They're more acrobatic than we are as men. Anyway, you know, every single time I watch this movie, it's this shot, which I like the shot. It's a beautiful shot. But it's this shot that makes me say, you know, we've been on this yacht for a while. This is the part of the movie. This I don't know if it's a 6 or 7 minute sequence before they go to Talon. When I say this is the one part of the movie that does drag for me, it's the part where if I'm watching this with other people, they might check their phone. They shouldn't. This is a pretty intense scene. I like the scene, but it's that moment with that boat, and you're like, gosh, we've been on this boat for a while. Now that we've seen inversion, can we see that again? Now that, you know, we were introduced to Sador, what else do we want to see? Well, we want to see him be, you know, a bad guy. And that's what we get to see here. A little bit of abuse. I think Kat has that misinformed thought of Sador. And I don't know if he has mistresses, but when she thought she saw someone diving off a boat, she thought it was Sador's mistress or, you know, someone else who he brought along. He's cheating on her, this kind of stuff. It's like, why do you even keep me here? Can I just take Max and go? And I mean, it's again, spoilers again, it's Kat in the future being in the past, inverted, reverted, whatever, it's her again. But, you know, she has this thing of saying, like, I forget what she says in the scene because I wasn't listening, but, you know, like, I should have the subtitles on, you know, like, is this are you going to treat me like you treat your other women? And it's this thing where Sador kind of plays along. I think he kind of plays along. It's like in the, how do you think I treat these other women? Like these other women. It's like these women that you speak of, these hypothetical women. It's like, I don't have other women, Kat. I have you. I want you. I'm abusive toward you, no doubt. But, you know, I have you and want you. You are mine. I don't want any other women personally myself. I like a shot for Sador. It kind of has a backwards shot. He's walking backwards, and I don't know if it's intentional, but it makes it feel like it's almost in reverse. He has another instance. Is it him? He or someone else has another instance of it. Yeah, it's Sador. When he turns around and does that look at me. It kind of looks like backwards movement. And again, I don't know if that stuff's intentional, but when you watch a movie on inversion of entropy and mechanics and people moving and stuff, you look to those things and you wonder if it's a coincidence or not, or if it's only in your head and not in anyone else's. Anyway, this part is the little slow part for me. I know it's part of the movie and exposition and stuff, but this is a part I'm not saying I can do without, but it is a time where you can check your watch and you're like, all right, you know what? I'm going to quickly, do something. Not every Nolan movie has this, but I'd say this movie has it. And listen, I could see this movie for 4 hours. I could watch a 4-hour version of this movie if he slows down the other parts. I absolutely could. I just think that given the other parts that were fast-paced, when we get on the yacht the first time with Sador, we've been nothing but with Sador this whole time. We're really concentrated on him now, almost too heavily so. It's like, gosh, can we get to some other aspects of this? And I think that's kind of what we feel, is we're like, where's the next part? You know, where is this leading to next? Is the rest of the movie going to be on the boat? If you guys watch a trailer, you know that's not true. When I was first watching the movie, I didn't know what comes next, so, you know, there's that. So, I don't know. This part, again, a little slow for me. And then when you see this part of inversion, you know, one part of movies, and obviously we know that he is aware of inversion. He has an inversion machine for, you know, a turnstile in his place, you know. But one thing about movies, and it's not true here, but it reminds me of it here, and I'm like, oh yeah, he does inverted stuff too, is sometimes it's nice in movies when you feel like that your character has the upper end in certain ways, specifically in ways that are like, you know, like only they're privy to that knowledge or to that ability. Even more so, a lot of superhero films, especially when you're watching the origin version of a movie. Take Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Peter Parker gets bit. It takes him a while to hone in on his spider abilities, and he's spent this long time, and he's earned this ability to do that over the course of time. He's earned it. But yet when someone else gets, not bit by a spider, but when someone else is a villain, whatever else, it's like, oh, they can suddenly do everything super fast. Like, they catch up in that way. And it's like, man, come on, man. This guy had to spend this whole time doing this, and you can do it like that. It was the same thing with Sador. I was like, shoot, you know what? We're going to have the upper hand with the protagonist on inversion stuff, but oh yeah, now you're reminded, oh yeah, Sator can do inversion stuff as well, which of course is important for the movie. It's part of the mechanics, and I enjoy it later. But it's that moment where I'm like, he's not, Protag isn't in a secret club when it comes to inversion. Sator knows inversion, his men know inversion, and later when the soldiers come in, they all know inversion. And I'm like, is inversion a popular thing in this world? Is inversion just everyone knows what inversion is? Because I didn't actually know one way or the other. You know, I was like clearly Protag didn't know about it, but we don't know Protag's history either. We don't know anything about him. It's almost like he was born right there in the SWAT van, or the Russian truck, when they were posing as SWAT people. That part's a little interesting. Sator tosses that gold bar, and yet the other ones were inverted, and this one wasn't. Maybe it slipped through Nolan's cracks a little bit there when it came to it, but he shouldn't have been able to toss it and not have it have inverted properties. Granted, gravity goes both up and down, but if it was tossed and it was inverted, then it should have went to Protag's hands being tossed. Otherwise, it got tossed from the ground. So maybe something that got slipped up there. I don't know. I like Neil's outfit here. All right, another, I don't know if you consider this montage-y, but another montage-y bit. You got music, you're getting cuts back and forth here. Things are starting to ramp up. You realize it's one of those moments where you're like, I don't know, I think this is about the halfway point of the film, and you notice you're getting to about that halfway point. You're like, all right, let's see when things start turning around. I thought it'd be really cool if Nolan found a way to say, you know, right when, what's his name, you know, like right when, what is his name? Right when Protag inverts, that's exactly the turning point of the film. Or like right when he goes outside, that's exactly the halfway point of the film. If it's a 2.5 hour movie, that's hour 15. And I know that the end part's all credits, so it's not truly 2.5 hours of actual film, of actual movie. But anyway, so they're about to do this highway scene, and, you know, one of those things where I knew this was a set piece. I was aware he wanted to shoot on a highway. I assumed it was for an action scene. I knew they wanted to close it off for some time, so I was excited and anticipating this. I think Nolan's generally very good at these things. Highway 1 was a little underwhelming to me as well. If you hear someone say it in words, you're like, oh, that was it. When you watch it on film in IMAX, it's really impactful. A lot of loud sounds, big screen, epic action. I like that, and I like that it's practical, but again, a little underwhelmed. They're driving really slowly. We'll get to it when we get to it. You see a guy in a mask, and you're like, all right, what's this about? Again, for me, I'm like, what's this about? Didn't know anything about the movie. What's the mask thing? And, you know, I talked about the mask before when he shoots in IMAX. I always think, I was like, you know, Nolan always, he's found better ways to find an excuse to shoot scenes in IMAX. So in The Dark Knight, it was a lot of not landscape shots. I guess you can say landscape shots, but what's the word? A lot of establishing shots, a lot of the action scenes where you can dub sounds back in, right? Mix them back in. And if they have to say a word or two in ADR, I guess you can, or if they're far enough away from the thing, you can. So Dark Knight didn't have a lot of IMAX. Inception didn't have any. At least he didn't open up to IMAX, even if he shot on 15 perforated. The Dark Knight Rises, just a lot more action. I don't know how to explain it, but it was just a lot more action, just a lot longer set pieces where you could just take the action there a little more. And it was a longer movie, so with longer movie and more action, there's just naturally going to be more. Do you see how he turned around? Look at me. I'm not saying he went backwards, but there's a backwards feel to it. I don't know what it was. Anyway, so The Dark Knight Rises, I don't know, a lot of that film is in IMAX. Interstellar. A lot of space shots where there's no sound anyway. A lot of shots where you don't need characters. Obviously, all the things inside of a spaceship is not IMAX, but almost everything else in the outdoors ways that don't need conversation is. And what they found out when they were shooting that movie was they could put a microphone inside the helmet, and then it won't be bothered by the loud sound of the IMAX camera. So any helmet shots in Interstellar. Any space, you know, because they're in space, so they're wearing astronaut suits. So another perfect time for IMAX there. Dunkirk, there's not much dialogue in Dunkirk, so there's another excuse. And my question for Tenet was going to be, without knowing anything about the movie, what's Nolan's good, not excuse, but what's Nolan's good ability going to be when shooting things in IMAX in this film? There's a lot of action, but there are a lot of times where people get to wear masks, so I guess that's it as well. Anytime they wear a mask, because whenever they're inverted, the oxygen thing flows there. And as much as he wanted to do that rule to kind of make it natural, it was also one of those things where I'm sitting there going like, this is a perfect excuse to also shoot in IMAX. So there's that as well. This kick, according to people in the UK, that kick is not shown in the UK. The UK is a censored version of the film and is 9 seconds shorter. And to be honest, I need that kick in the film. That's brutal. That makes me go, I freaking hate this guy. I mean, before, when he knocked her down, took the gun away, knocked it down, I'll argue that's self-defense. I'm not saying I'm okay with it, but that's self-defense. Not saying he has a right, but if she's going to shoot him, I guess he does have a right, even though he's a bad guy. But he kicks her when she's down, and he has like a celebratory cry, and it's this thing of like, man, I mean, and it's this thing where some people probably say, he's going over the top. I think that was the right amount of over-the-topness for what Sador is and what he was doing. I think that tiger line is a little over the top. You see a tiger in the eye, and you reveal his true nature. I forget that line in and of itself. I was excited for this scene. I like this scene. I do. It's a fun scene to watch. There were things that I would have liked to see differently, though, and of course, you might have had to shoot it in a different place. Notice how there are only 2 or 3 lanes in this thing. I would have liked to see a freeway, higher speeds in a freeway chase scene, and when Neil counts down from 5, that they really close in on him. Like the cars in front and back, they're not already closed in. I don't know why the guys driving the truck who are being pinned there aren't like, okay, this is kind of weird. People don't drive this way. I'm just going to move lanes. This feels really unnatural right now. People are like, all right, we're going to move. We're all going to go left. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird. So I wish that they could go a little faster. I wish they could be a little more separated and they all just close in together. I thought that would have been a really cool shot, especially given the aerial shots that they do have. I thought that would be really cool. This is where the movie really starts to make you scratch your head, though, because you start to get the inversion. So you start to say, okay, what's going on? And I'll be honest, as much as I've seen this movie and broken it down frame by frame, shooting shots wise, I can't yet piece together every little bit of everything intention wise and using the temporal pincers as far as how they plan it and how they plan to overcome the whole thing about where the device is, where the piece of the algorithm is. Gosh, I love that one shot on the fire truck with it, and when he's going there, merging on the freeway. One of my favorite shots, but more so in IMAX than when I'm watching it right now, even. Yeah, I thought this for a long time. Like, these guys are kind of like, they see them, but they're not really, they're not like, okay, what's going on here, clearly. I mean, it takes a while for him to take this thing out. You know, for this scene, what happens in this scene here? Protag, they pin this car in the middle. Protag goes above the truck, goes inside, takes a piece of the algorithm, goes in a car. And that's it. It's not a huge thing. When you say it like that, that's all it is. And to me, it kind of takes a long time to happen. I'm almost sweating the idea of like, man, they're taking a long time to make this happen. Even when Neil's counting, he's like, in 5, 4, 3. I'm like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And right in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Protag, get up on that fire truck and go, man. Time is of the essence here. Let's get this going. Maybe Nolan had to stretch it out to Ludwig Göransson's score, to his soundtrack, to this track here. What's it called? Trucks in Place? I like this one. I like this one a lot. I can't hear it, but I like this one a lot. And he's like, oh, you know what? Maybe I had to time the scene to this, so I'm going to make sure it goes slowly. So, I don't know. Maybe that's what they were trying to do. I like the scene. I just think that not a lot really actually happens here as far as the heist. It doesn't feel like this, you know, for as creative as Nolan is in his bones, not a lot really happens. They pin a truck, they get something in and out. The inversion stuff's kind of cool afterward. It's really cool. It's almost in a freaky way, and we're going to talk about it when it comes up, but you know, when he ends up going back inside the car and Neil says on the radio, it's not Estonian, it's backwards, and in the distance you get that screeching car inverted stuff. There's no real music. There's a slight bit of music that's going to ramp up in a bit, but it's almost eerie. It's like, I'm not going to say it's out of a horror film. It's a well shot bit. I'm going to admit it's a very, very, very well shot bit. You know, I want to get into Neil stuff a little bit. Neil equals Max stuff. I want to get in a little bit because we've seen a couple things already, and I just mentioned one. Protag in a bit is going to say, I thought you said you spoke Estonian. Now, first of all, there's no other time earlier on in the movie where we actually hear that. The screenplay never actually says that to my knowledge. Like, oh, I speak Estonian, I have a master's in physics, whatever. But y'all who are watching this, who are non-believers of Neil equals Max, or for the first time hearing this, what I want you to do... I don't want you to necessarily just hear me out and buying this thing and turn this thing off just by hearing me say all this. But what I want you to do is I do want you to understand this. This movie does leave me a little emotionally cold, as a lot of Nolan movies do. Dunkirk even left me pretty cold there. Interstellar is obviously one that did not as much. Inception did not as much. Memento did not as much. Prestige. Anyway, a lot of his earlier movies did not. And then plus Interstellar. But for those who are left emotionally cold in this film, and who can't see very deep into Kat's motivation of wanting to see her son again, knowing that we don't know much about the son, if we know that the son is Neil, that gets us a lot deeper emotional investment into it. I mean, there's this idea of what's happened, so maybe it's like, okay, we know the son's going to be okay. Oh, I love it. Here's the part here. And going through... Very creepy. Very creepy. And it's creepy in this way of like, you know, everyone feels really, I mean, until we actually see Sador being inverted, we don't really see the inverted people. In the inverted fight, we don't see his protag. I guess we're not supposed to see his protag yet, of course, but we don't see who it is. It's this mystery. This car's driving, windows tinted. It's a mystery of this inverted practice. And even it being Sador, Sador, I don't know how to say his name the way that I want to. Like, if I say it with the British accent, it's like Sato. But anyway, you know, even when he's in it, it feels like it's like this different person almost in a way. It's like, oh gosh, what's the thing? It's kind of like, you know, Clue. Is his name Clue in Tron Legacy? I don't know if he's in the first Tron. I didn't see the first Tron. But it's kind of like Clue. It's like a different person in a way, like that younger Jeff Bridges. So it doesn't really feel like it's the Sador that we've seen kind of thing in a way. I mean, it's him, but he's backwards, and it's this, it's eerie. It's cool. It's ominous. I like it a lot. That's something about this movie that it does give me chills thinking about. Not an emotional way, just in this like nice filmmaking kind of way. And I don't know if that's what I'm supposed to feel, but that's what it is. Anyway, and apparently this was a big shot in the first trailer here. When they say, don't try to understand it, feel it. And people are like, what's going on? Because they see the car flip forward and then they see it go backwards and like, wait, do certain things rewind and others don't? I don't know. I didn't see the trailers to begin with. So, anyway, so that shot with the case there, that could be looked at either way because Sador throws it to Protag and Protag throws it to Sador. So there's an inversion tactic that can be used either way, palindromically so, that says, okay, that works one way or the other. The gold brick, though, the gold bar, I don't really know if it actually works as well. This is one of those things also, you know, I don't like when movies do this when it comes to editing. Like, you like when there's a timer, and actually, in fact, this movie has a timer later. There's a timer on the clock, it says 8 seconds left, but it takes 40 seconds to happen. Same thing here. We saw a shot of how close close they were. We just saw another shot right there, how close they are to the stop traffic. And this music is like taking forever. And it's like, do the part where you save someone. This part's fine, I guess, right here as it's happening. But this part, it's like get closer to the car. This is taking a long time. And I'm like, just can you edit down some bits and just have them jump right now? And have it feel like, because we're closing in. We're closing in. This is taking a long time. Get to it. Get to it. Get to it. Get to it. Just jump. 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 Like, stop this. Stop. Like, stop. Like, you know what I mean by this, right? It's like, there are 8 seconds left, but we see 40 seconds. And this, how did they not hit? How did they not hit those cars already? And now he's got to reach. And all that stuff. And as I was watching the movie the first time, I was actually thinking in my head, it's hard to explain, but I was thinking in my head, like, you know, if he saves her, I'm not feeling this like, whew, that was close. But I was also feeling, if she dies, I'm going to feel kind of sad. So there was kind of this back and forth that I'll only feel emotionally invested if she dies. But if she lives, I'm just like, oh, okay, well, I guess that wasn't much. Because at the time, I wasn't really feeling much for Kat, but I'd feel like, oh man, poor Kat, that's the way she's going to die. If she died, then that was kind of my thought. You know, talk about side characters. Not a big fan of Volkov. He's someone who doesn't talk very much. He doesn't talk at all. He's someone who doesn't really talk, and just this kind of tall guy, almost one of those cartoony guys, I'm not really a fan of him. I don't know. I'm not saying he's a bad actor or anything. Just it was a little bit of like a little over the top for me with Sator and Volkov combined. Volkov's the bald guy, bald big guy. You know that at some point, he's gonna have to fight him, right? You see him sit down next to him in the restaurant. You see Volkov sit down next to Protag in the restaurant. He gets up and leaves, and he fights other people. And then you see Volkov kick his butt in on the yacht later. And they're like, okay. Oh no, sorry. And before that, he checks him. He checks him for weapon stuff, like, oh, yo, whoa, easy, bud. Clearly, there's this kind of back and forth where they're like, I don't like you, hey, it's okay, man. Yeah, you don't have to like me, blah blah blah. And then he fights him. He doesn't really fight him. He knocks him out. Knocks out Protag. Volkov knocks out Protag in the yacht there. So like you knew they were gonna fight at some point. You just did. This scene confused the crap out of me when I first watched it. I didn't know. I mean, I included he was inverted. I couldn't piece together the dialogue, and it's hard to. This scene still can give me headaches, even though I know exactly what's going on. I don't get how Sador's having a reverse conversation though, because of course when we see him invert, it's I'm not saying it's a different Sador, but technically it is, but the same person. Ooh, that inverted bullet shot really does feel though. See, this is an example. This is an example of something that got hyped up right. We see an inverted bullet that kills a SWAT person, but you say, hey, bullets kill people. But then Barbara says something like, you're lucky. A radiated an inverted bullet with the radiation, whatever, is very dangerous, like not pretty. It's extremely lethal. I think they do another setup time as well with an inverted bullet that they mention. They mention it later as well, but I think they mentioned before. I think they mentioned it at some other point that inverted bullets are dangerous. So when that moment happens, you're like, oh crap, this is the thing. So setting it up beforehand is important before the inverted bullet thing actually happens. Anyway, so again, this thing confused the crap out of me. It even came to the point, I think I'd seen the movie twice, and I forgot that when you invert somebody, that if you're an observer watching it, that person has to disappear because they go into the past, and the inverted person is going, gosh, I can't even do this right, is going, oh, I can't do this right. If you're inverted, well, I guess if you're inverted, you're only perceiving the inverted people going backwards, so it's really just one person. They're going here, but they're going into the past. So they disappear in the future, which is kind of a cryptic thing when I talk about something near the end of the movie. But yeah, I don't know how Sador has a conversation here, because this Sador right now that we're looking at, for all intents and purposes, I'm not certain, but he didn't hear the conversation the first time. So I don't know how when he hears Protag's responses, which of course are a result of something else that he's supposed to say, triggers him to say the thing he's supposed to say and what information he's getting. But when you read the screenplay, it's not perfect, but I'm sure Nolan planned for this a lot. When you read the screenplay, the conversation kind of does work both forward and backward. If you read it the first time you heard it, and if you read it now, it kind of does work forward and backward. Part of it, not quite. There's something about like where Protag says right there, he says something like, it's in the BMW. And then later Sador says something like, is it in the fire truck or the BMW? And then he says like, who told you that? So that part doesn't really work. But some of the other parts, well, you just told him that, of course. But it's backwards. Okay, here's Ives, Aaron Taylor Johnson. Aaron Taylor Johnson? Is that his name? I think so. I was thinking Anya Taylor-Joy. ATJ. Aaron Johnson. I first knew him from Kick-Ass, saw him in King Kong. Now he's here. I'm sure I've seen him in something else. I don't know what. Kick-Ass 2, clearly. But I didn't know it was him until much later in the movie. I'll tell you when I said, oh, that is him. Like I didn't think it was him. I didn't know. I was like, is that Aaron Taylor Johnson? I never thought that. Okay. Let's get in some... Oh, sorry. One thing I was going to say about the red room, blue room thing was, I don't know if this was by Nolan's intent, but it was hard hearing the other person over the intercom. And I thought... And when he went to the blue room, I realized, oh, okay, now I'll hear what he got to say. So I don't know if that was intentional or not, but this is where the movie started to give me a headache. In a good way. In a very good way. That is not a knock at all. It said, I gotta watch this movie again. I don't know if I love it. I don't know if I don't love it. I don't know if I hate it. But I know I gotta watch this movie again, and I had this obsession over it, and I'm sure that was Nolan's intent. I really am certain that was his intent. But okay, let's get into the Neil Max stuff a little bit before I see something else that I want to talk about, because I'm not saying there's downtime here. We're gonna get in some stuff. I hope you're enjoying the commentary here, by the way. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. I have a list. I don't know where it is. I had posted it on the subreddit that I'm on in Tenet. I haven't gone to that subreddit now in over a month. I haven't posted anything. But I tried to defend my reasons for why I think Neil's Max. And one of them isn't necessarily a reason, but a reason you might want to believe, because if you believe it to be true, or if you hold it evident, if you hold it to be actually true, then it gives a little more emotional investment on Kat and her son, because Neil is her son. Or Max. Max is Neil. Neil's her son. So that is, to me, a reason that you would want to believe it. Excuse me. Now, before I talk about the other reasons, let me say one of the main reasons that people believe that it's not. That despite anything that might be coincidence, which is something I'll talk about too, despite anything else that might be coincidence, that they believe that it's not. When people invert, as they're inverting right now, they still age forward. Even if they're going backwards in time, like if Protag stayed inverted for 40 years somehow, if he could do that, which is kind of the point I want to talk about, then he'd get gray hairs. He'd get old and wrinkly, whatever it is, right? So you still age forward, even if you invert yourself. So the idea is for Max to become the Neil that we see here, he's got to age several years. And if you're even if you're being generous, you're giving 20 years or something like that, 18, 20 years. Even if you're being generous about it, but you're probably realistically saying like 25 or so. And you're saying he would have to invert for 20 years to do whatever. Now, number one, that's not necessarily true. He could grow up with Protag for quite a while one way and then invert the other half. So now you're dividing in half 10 years. People are like, okay, that's still a long time. Okay, well, here's number two. He doesn't have to stay inverted that entire time. And one thing that I think that Nolan intentionally does, is there's a scene where they're inside their crate. He's talking about it right now, like we need a large storage crate to, with oxygen that we can go in. When they're inside the crate, there's a part where Neil's trying to sleep and Protag's talking about some things, and he's like, try sleep. And they're inverted at the time. And I'm sitting there thinking, I bet that what Neil did is he had access to some sort of turnstile to a way where the majority of the time that he is inverted is when he's asleep. And then he can wake up and revert and do some stuff. Maybe he lives a couple days inverted inside the thing, or he goes out and walks backwards, goes and buys McDonald's. I don't know what he specifically does, but it's not outside the realm of reason to be able to age and just say, live days forward, awake, live nights asleep, and inverted. And it's not 10 straight years anymore. It's at least not the feel. Maybe he's reliving some day over and over, and what's happened. I don't know if he gets bored with that or not. It's kind of a 51st dates thing, or a memento thing, if you will, except you're well aware of everything that happened. But number three, and this is a big one, as Neil says what's happened, later he says something like, and I think I want to say this verbatim, he says something like, which is an expression of faith of mechanics of the world, and is not an excuse to do nothing. The whole goal of this movie is to prevent the end of the world, or the beginning of the world, if you will, if they invert the entire world. See, if this was the exact hour 15 or whatever, that would be cool. Like, hey, everything else from here is going to go back to where it was. And I didn't know if I was going to believe that was going to happen yet. I didn't know, but once I hit the freeway and once I hit Oslo, I said, we're going to see everything again. We're going back to the opera house. We didn't, which was too bad. But anyway, as Neil says, what's happened, which is an expression of faith in the mechanics of the world, not an excuse to do nothing, is his way of saying we can't just sit by and assume everything's going to happen for us. We're going to also have to still make it so. We can't just sit back. Okay, if you want to save the world, and if you want to save your friend's life, if you want to save the world and do all the stuff as Max, who becomes Neil, you're going to have to do what it takes. You're going to have to invert 10 years, whatever it is, however he does it, however long it is, you're going to have to do it. And people are like, he would have to do this thing. Yeah, he would have to. Okay, he would have to do it. But he has to do it. Otherwise, if he doesn't, the world ends. So, there's this big idea of he has to. What's happened, and I got to make it so. So I'm going to invert and make it so. Might not be his favorite way to spend his life. He might even know that it comes to his death soon, but if it means saving the world, If it means saving the world, maybe he's going to go and do it. So that's one big part of the Neil thing. So for the naysayers of that, just keep those things in mind. The other thing the naysayers say is all these feel like coincidences. Okay, I don't have all of them in my head right now, but one of the ones that people talk about, and I'll delve into it a lot more. This is by the way a part that I never really understood. I haven't still yet felt out the whole piece of the tracker and stuff like that and how he's tracking it and it's in the thing. I mean, I know what he's doing. I just haven't been able. If someone told me explain exactly what's happening here, I know that he's following the briefcase, but like explain exactly what's happening with the tracker such and such, I wouldn't be completely up and up with you on that. Anyway, that's okay. So Neil, the last 4 letters of Neil are Neil, and if you reverse that, that's Lien. And if you push it the right way, apparently the French spelling of Maximilian ends in Lien. I don't know if that's true, but apparently it's a way you can spell it. That's not the way that I would spell Maximilian, but you can push it. I'll get back to that one later. Number 2, and you can chalk these up as coincidences, guys, but Max has blonde hair and blue eyes. Robert Pattinson in this film, blonde hair, blue eyes. I think he always has blue eyes. But it's even parted the same way. Remember when I talked about that one close-up shot of Max as he watches Cat dive off the boat? It's even parted the same way. Neil is blonde hair. Robert Pattinson is blonde haired in this film. He didn't have to be blonde haired. They intentionally went out of the way to make him blonde haired. You know, just like how Nolan puts a ring on Cobb's finger, on Leonardo DiCaprio's finger, anytime apparently he's in the waking world, or I don't know. That's what people say. I've honestly never even went to pay attention. No matter how many times I read it, no matter how many times I see Inception, I never check and see at the end if there's a wedding ring on his finger. I never look. Anyway, blonde hair, blue eyes, both of them. English accent. Oh, I love this moment. It took me forever. Again, I'm processing this whole film. It took me forever to realize that, oh yeah, he's the guy that's going to flip. I'm sure everyone else in the theater noticed. Oh, he's going in that sob. He's going to be that person. I didn't notice until he flipped. I'm like, oh. I was like, man. And what I also didn't know is that Protag knew that his inverted self was actually in that. Because he knew, apparently he knew that he tossed the algorithm in there. Sorry, I just kind of swallowed, I inhaled air. I inhaled saliva. Neil is inverse of Maximilian. At least the last 4 letters of it. Okay. See, this is where I think Sador's taking stuff personally right here. And I'm like, okay, he's encountered him enough to take it personally. But I don't think he and Sador see each other again until the end of the film. Or they don't see each other in the end of the film. They talk to each other on the radio. I don't think they see each other again. So for me, there's a long break. Let me see what time we're at. 1:35 right now. So it's probably going to take another 40 minutes before they even have some interaction with each other. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I don't think they ever experience and encounter each other again. So, okay. Neil and Max both have a British accent, of course, because, you know, they do. Okay, coincidence. Okay, those are coincidences. But let's add a few more things up. I mentioned this before. Neil speaks Estonian. And they are not going to go out of their way to say they could, again, coincidence. There's no reason to go out of the way of, I thought you spoke Estonian, just to have the line, it's not Estonian, it's backwards. There are other ways that they can come out doing that. Like, something like, what's he saying? What language with that? What language is that? I don't think it's a language. I think it's backwards. You know, they could just say that. So, Estonian. Sador speaks Estonian. Okay. And Russian, I guess. Gosh, I wish I had my list in front of me. I'd pull it out, but I don't want to ditch what I'm watching here. There's something to talk about. There are Neil things to talk about here. Neil does take care of Kat. Some people think also, they say, you know, for someone who was her son, after she gets shot, he really doesn't go out of his way to take care of her. You have to recall, he probably knows that she does survive. He is going to go the lengths to help her, but he does take care of her. He does. I just don't think that he's shocked at the fact that she got shot, and he's going to do things in his power. He watches over her plenty. He watches over her plenty here. You know what? I'm going to find my list while this thing's playing. Let me look for it right now. Give me 1 second. I don't know if I'm going to find this list, and I'll see if there's something else I can talk about. The arm that starts to bleed more. You know, I never noticed the first time that he actually got stabbed as the inverted fighter. So as he bleeds more, even as he puts the suit on, guys, I'm slow when it comes to movies in this way, where I'm trying not to actually connect pieces. Not that I'm intentionally going out of my way, but I'm not thinking about trying to connect pieces. He puts the suit on with the mask. They're going to Oslo. I'm not thinking for one moment here that he's going to be the inverted guy who he fights, even though Priya says at one point, I probably didn't hear it the first time I watched the movie, but even though Priya says at one point that like they're the same person. The same person is the person who goes in, is the person who goes out, which clearly they are. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find this actual set of clues. It's got to be in one of my Reddit posts, but man, I make a lot of Reddit posts, so I'm not sure which ones are actually going to be mine. So my apologies. I'll come up with that list at some point again later there. Neil being Max. Okay, well here are just some as I just think of them. When Protag goes and calls Neil, what he calls to get someone arranged for him, and Neil meets him, right? When they first meet each other, at least when Protag first meets Neil, they meet at the Bombay Yacht Club. The Bombay Yacht Club. A little Easter egg to the fact that Max has a father who lives on a frickin' yacht. There's that one. This one doesn't necessarily work because it depends on the way that you want to push it, but Neil is aware of the date for which Sador, for which Cap and them believe that Sador felt that he was loved or something like that. The last time that he really thought was loved was June 14th or whatever. Neil blurts out that time. Protag's like, how do you know that? Well, I'm thinking, well, duh, because Neil was Max, and that was June 14th when blah, 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 blah happened. But someone could argue that, well, there's an inverted version of him who was at the opera house, of course, who did that. You know, I had a theory once that Neil actually, at the end of that battle, or before the battle, I forget which one I really liked. It was either before or after the end of the battle, at the end, that he inverts back to that moment to go to I forget if the opera house is to go to Kiev, to go to the Ukraine, and to save Protag. So he learns afterward that Protag almost got hit by an inverted bullet, so he goes and saves him. I thought that would be a cooler way to do it, and that would push the idea of why he still knows June 14th, because he's Max. So here's that try-sleep bit that I was talking about. I don't like the edits right here. Just like, oh, now they're awake. I wish there was a little more sequencing. Maybe fade to black. I don't know. Something else. It was a little kind of weird and sudden. And there's another bit here, too, where they're about to transition where it's just like, man, they're really jumping from one thing to the other. And Nolan has a new editor in this film. It's not Lee Smith. It's what's her name? Jennifer Lame, I believe. I don't know if it's Lamy. I'll say Jennifer Lame. I bet it's Lamy or something. Anyway, so now they're did they just go forward in time a little bit more? Oh, right here. So okay, they just jumped in time again. Like, okay, we're good to go. I don't know if I have a lot of Neil's being Max. Guys, I have like 8 more of Neil being Max. But, you know, the one thing about the name that I want to mention is, and I went out of my way to do this once. I was watching football on Sunday, and while I was doing it, I decided to do this. I went and found 1,000 popular baby names. I don't know if they're modern, I don't know if they're whatever, but just 1,000 popular, I think they were current ones. And I said, okay, I'm going to do all these names. I'm going to think of their nicknames, their full names, and I'm going to think of trying to invert them to make other names. Now, I don't know where the list is, but I have it somewhere. It is not only is it already an extremely small list of names that you can invert, but some are so obvious that they're not worth doing it, like Bob is still Bob, things like that. Clearly you can't do that. But there's some that are so obvious that it would fly right in the face. If Nolan wanted to do this, he'd want to keep it rather secretive. People found it out if that is the case, but what I said was, what are the odds? Because I only got it down to like 2 or 3 names. I forget what they all are, but Neil and Maximilian is, one of them. So what are the odds that Nolan just so happens to choose 2 names that are not anagrams, that are reverses of each other in some form that are not obvious, and there are only like 3 other names in the world that are of a possibly, English European, descent kind of name. Like Neil and Max can work in England, but you're not going to call him like Sal. I guess you call him Sal, but that's kind of Italian. So like stuff like that. It's like, what are the odds that he happened to choose 2 names that were only among any other like 3 or so pairs? Like, Okay, so like, see how that feels backwards? See how the camera movement feels backwards there? I don't know how to explain it, but it's got a backwards feel to it. But anyway, so like, what are the odds that the list was so small that there was just no possible way with all the other, you got to add up all the other coincidences with it, guys. That's not the one coincidence. Everything else is involved with it. And again, I'm not saying all the things. I'm not remembering all of them right now off the top of my head. But there are a lot of them. Oh, I love seeing this time when I finally was piecing together that they're fighting in different directions. The first time through, I was questioning. I was like, are they both fighting backwards? When I realized that it didn't look like they were fighting forward here, I was like, okay, now that I'm seeing the moves, it looks like one actually is fighting forward, one's fighting backward. It gets jarring, though, of course, when we're looking at, like, okay, like this looks like, certain camera movement. This looks like forward. This looks like backward. And I think at those times, I was like, okay, they're just having them fight backwards. Oh, he does catch the gun there. He doesn't throw it. Okay, never mind. No, I don't know what made me believe they were both fighting backwards then. I don't know. That's a stupid thought. Stupid thought. But yeah, I did love this movie. That's when he gets stabbed. I didn't see that for a long time. They didn't really show much. I remember when I showed my dad Memento, the movie Memento, and the movie works both backwards and forwards. It goes forwards in the black and white scenes and backwards in the color scenes. And in the black and white scenes, Guy Pearce's character Leonard he doesn't have this scratch on his face, this cut on his face. But in the colored scenes, he does have a cut on his face. So as we're watching the movie, like my dad keeps saying, like, I wonder, when he's going to get that cut on his face. Oh, by the way, yeah, this was, I knew that Neil saw, and I don't know if you guys saw that too. If you guys rewind, you do see them fight in the background as he turns that corner. You see them fighting, the fight of Protag and Protag, with a third version of Protag right there. It's kind of cool. But I knew that Neil saw the person's face, and because of the person's face, he decided to run. I didn't know what it was. I made no assumptions that it was Protag or Neil. Zero assumption whatsoever. Because I didn't know the concepts of inversion yet. I didn't know anything about it, and I didn't think of it until when you watch it. You're like, oh, yeah, he sees Protag. So anyway, when my dad sees, when he's watching the movie, he's watching Memento, he's like, I wonder when he's going to get that cut on his face. It must be a big moment. Technically, it is a big moment, but Nolan doesn't make it obvious when it happens. I mean, it happens, but it's not this big, thing of, like, they zoom in and show that that's when his face gets cut. And I'm not going to spoil when it is in case you haven't seen the movie. Please see the movie Memento. But, I mean, it's a time, I mean, you see his face get scratched at the time, but it's not this big, like, ow, my face is scratched kind of thing. So after the movie, my dad processes later and says, like, wait, when did his face get cut and scratched? And I say, Dad, it was during this moment. It was during blah, 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 blah. So I think the same thing kind of here was like when he gets stabbed there, you barely even notice it. I'm sure everyone else is like, yeah, you do. Of course you notice it. So I don't know. I didn't notice it at least. And they're like, oh, that's when he gets stabbed. Because I was wondering what the whole wound thing was about. And I was like, he never complains about it later. I was thinking that. I was like, he never complains about it later. And I guess they stabbed his wound clean. Which makes me think when they're fighting, technically, and it doesn't feel that way. I mean, I don't know what an inverse punch or kick feels like. But the more Protag is then punching his inverted self in the forward, as he's observing in the forward time frame, the more he's healing him. But of course, that's not actually happening when he's perceiving it when he's inverted. He's getting hurt because when he got stabbed. Well, actually, no, I take that back. It is the other way. When Protag is inverted, the more he's getting punched, the more he's getting healed, right? So I don't know which way. I think Nolan messes that up somewhere. I think that stab is backwards of some other things, like when someone gets shot by an inverted bullet, for example. Shouldn't have that then healed Kat, or because she was non-inverted. See, I don't know. Those are the things that make me scratch my head quite a bit. Yeah, so again, I didn't know where we were placed at in the movie here. Neil at one point here says, we did it. I was like, wait, that was the end of the movie? I didn't really feel what was going on yet. I know he's talked about the algorithm and stuff. I'm like, man, movie's over. Nice. I didn't know what time frame we were at. I didn't actually think the movie was over, but I was like, what did they do? I did have trouble figuring out what they were doing at this time. I didn't hear really well. I knew they had to invert back. I knew they had to heal Kat, but actually, I don't know if they had to. I was having trouble feeling out the concept of why they were going back to Oslo. I know they say it, but trust me, guys, I was lost in this movie. I was thinking about things as they were saying things, so I had trouble. I also had trouble with this scene for quite a while because I thought they were inverted far back enough, and I realize now that they weren't, but I thought they were inverted far back enough that when he's seeing her here, this is her first time ever actually seeing him. So, because he says, I didn't actually think that, but he says something like, in 2 days you're going to tell me about plutonium, about stealing, about Sador and plutonium. I thought that was the balcony scene. I didn't think that was the scene where they're on the ferry about the plutonium. So I was like, okay, so he's meeting her for the first, he knows her, but she's meeting him for the first time here, I guess. But yeah, so I didn't really know. So I was like, okay, then she's not surprised when she sees him on the balcony and then tells him about the plutonium. So I was a little confused on that bit here. This scene, I think this is also in Talon. If you watch behind the scenes stuff, they really show where they shot things. And this is one of those reserved things that I like that Nolan did well. Again, he reserved showing Sador for a long time. He reserved inversion mechanics for a long time. Didn't do a lot of. And Nolan really reserves himself. He doesn't really show off a lot. He picks these places because of certain things that are thematic with the film or things that he really likes that are striking stuff, but he doesn't show them much, and that almost sounds like a detriment. But I like that. I mean, if you look for it, if you watch the behind the scenes stuff, you make sense of it and go like, oh, that's kind of cool. I almost wish he showed it in the movie, but then it almost becomes a little too show-offy or a little too on the nose. And when you look at this place, and I forget what this place is suddenly. I don't know if it's like a memorial or if it's a I forget what this is. A walk of prayer. Like, I don't know where she is. Did she come out of service? I forget what it is. I think it's a memorial of some sort. But anyway, we're just walking the memorial. It's a beautiful place. You see it here and you think it's beautiful. Go watch the behind the scenes stuff in the whole area. It's like a big park. It's very, very beautiful. He doesn't show it off a lot. In the opera scene thing, he doesn't show off that exterior that has this very labyrinthy, kind of mazy kind of feel to it, which is one of the reasons that we thought that maybe, by we I mean anyone on forums, thought that maybe this was something with Inception. Even Talon, he talks about like this freeway thing, and I'm sitting there thinking the mechanics of the action of the scene and the backdrop and stuff wasn't really a huge bit on the architecture and stuff of Estonia and of Talon. So I'm surprised that he fought so hard, because that's where some money was spent, closing the road, the most popular freeway in Talon, for 2 weeks, not like in a row, but just closing for 2 weeks to shoot the scenes. And I'm like, well, did you really need to shoot it there? So I sit there and think that sometimes, but the more I watch the movies, the more he talks about it when I see it behind the scenes, the more I want to look for that kind of stuff. This was a scene that cemented for me something that I didn't really like about the movie, which was, I can say this in a back and forth kind of way. I'm of the belief that as much exposition as there is, and as much that Protag learns things, unlike Inception, this is a lot less exposition heavy when it comes to him serving as a character so that we learn things. Whether or not you believe that, he has to learn things, but they aren't as in your face in this movie than not. What I didn't really like in this movie is how Protag was really I don't want to say a know-it-all, but think of the scene when he's with Michael Caine's character. I don't know Caine's character's name. I think I've heard it once, but I don't remember it. Caine's like, we have an ice in the hole, and he gives him the bag, and he's like, you have a Goya drawing in a Harrods bag. How the heck did you know that's a Goya drawing? That, like, I guess you know that what it is, whatever. He knew what Freeports were. He's piecing together to be the person to say, wait, you wanted me to do whatever, which that's obvious, but I think that can either go without saying, or I think she can say it, because everything he does, he doesn't have to question enough things and like, wait, what's that? I don't know what that is. And it kind of just made him a little bit, see, this feels kind of backwards when he's walking. The pull-ups don't feel backwards. The chin-ups, pull-ups, those are chin-ups. He was going hands reversed. Palms facing him is a chin-up. I was not paying attention during the scene enough when they were talking about the gadget stuff. I heard them, but I wasn't understanding what they were talking about with the fitness tracker thing. I was like, wait, he wants, I don't know, man. I had to watch this movie a lot to really make sense of it. But anyway, yeah, I didn't like how Protag was a little bit of a know-it-all. It was more than just that. He has quips, which is good. I like that. But, he has quips. He knows everything about everything pretty well. great vocabulary. I'm not taking away from having any of that kind of stuff. It's just that, like, I mean, there's nothing much to him other than we know, obviously, he wants to save people's lives. He doesn't want to put innocent people's lives at stake, it always seems like. There's something to that. You know, he's like, hey, we can't hurt anyone. Or like, please, you don't want to hurt these people. You see bits of that. And we know that he knows a lot. I mean, he's learning about inversion, but he connects things really fast. There's no needing to process things that much. And I think that was a time for me. That was it. Anyway, so as Neil here, he's also talking very, very kind of like empathetically here. You know, he's really talking to her as a boy should talk to his mother. Yeah. he's like I forget what he's specifically saying, but you know, like if you were to pick a time and a place to go, you know, where would it be? Like, think, Mom, think. Yeah. You know, one thing with Kat, it's kind of interesting. You know, she calls Max often enough times, but whenever she's around Neil, she never refers to him as Max. And I'm not positive about that, but I gotta be sure. She always says, my son. There would be a jarring feel of someone who's now going by the name Neil. Oh, by the way, Neil, Masters in Physics. That's another big one. Masters in Physics. Why would he have a master's in physics? Well, he should study up on it to learn the ideas of inversion and entropy, you know. So he goes and studies up on physics. Maybe that's part of this 10 years that he spends inverted, studying physics. And then he goes and takes a test over and over until he passes it. But anyway. Oh, shoot. I don't know what I was just saying. Just, you know, Kat always says, my son, in front of Neil. She never says Max, because otherwise you create this dichotomy of them actually being two different people. If she says my son, and if my son's right there, you know, whether or not she knows it, she doesn't. If she says my son, and Neil gets that connection of, I'm Neil, I'm your son, I guess I was some guy named Max, but you won't say Max in front of me, because otherwise that makes us feel like two different people. Otherwise she says Max in front of other people all the time. I clearly, when she calls out Max, she doesn't go, my son, where are you? Obviously, she'd say Max there. But, you know, that's just, it's a small thing. But, I mean, I'm sure those are things that Nolan pays attention to and thinks about. I really do. This was hard to hear. That was definitely a hard scene to hear. I did have trouble on the plans on the final scene. I had trouble connecting and establishing where we were in the final scene. I don't know if I knew it was Stealth 12 or not, buried under the rubble and stuff. I remember the thing about the capsule that they talked about, and they were talking about Sador puts things in a capsule, and in return he gets gold bars and stuff like that. So I guess I realized that, yeah, if he's going to do it in a buried place, it's going to be Stealth 12. And so I guess right there he told it to Ives. I like this scene. I like this as a slowdown scene as well. This one reads well on the page. This scene reads well on the page. This scene does read well when I slowed this down for 30 hours and was cropping this film. This scene does work. In real time, not as much, but I do like this scene as well. And, you know, are we supposed to have a romantic connection between Protag and Kat? I don't know. And she kisses him on the cheek. And he's tailing her everywhere he goes. He clearly wants her to survive. And, you know, people ask, you know, why? And I don't know. I mean, does there have to be a reason? I don't know. He feels bad for her. Will he go to the end of the world for it? If Neil is Max, then yeah. He doesn't know that. But, you know, will he go to end of the lengths for that? You know, there are two things later in the end, but they come kind of really near the end that is Neil as Max kind of things as well that I'll be sure to bring up when it happens. I just got to remember the dialogue that's occurring. But one thing I'll mention, I'll kind of mention it now. Neil gets the last monologue in narrative form. His character is already dead, and he gets the last monologue in narrative form. And I'm thinking, why is he saying this? Now, someone told me, and they're right, that, you know, when they're in that fire van, you know, the van with sirens, the yellow van when they're driving away from the Oslo Freeport, he says something like, we are the people who could have been, or something. I forget the thing. I forget what the exact same thing is. But that's the start of the monologue as well. So it's almost a continuation of it. So I was almost saying, like, why does he get to say the end part? And what does this have to do with? What about it's the bomb that doesn't go off that means everything? What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything to us, the audience. But as they show this final shot, and people think that the final shot of the film is anticlimactic with Kat walking away with her son, unless you think that this movie is really just a relationship between a mother and son. Just like Interstellar is a movie about a relationship between father and daughter. Well, sort of. People don't get the connection as much because they don't know Max much. But if Max is Neil, and if that's the whole bomb that doesn't go off thing, that the importance of saving Kat to save her son or whatever, to become Neil, to do blah, 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 to save the world, that bomb that didn't go off did change everything. And Neil saying that, being the person monologuing there, I think is really crucial to that. I really do. I think that's a big important part of it. All right, this instruction stuff was kind of bad for me. I didn't like that the whiteboard marker didn't show up that well. I was like, I want to see what you're drawing. I can't tell. I see everything that's going on there, but I was really hoping we were going to go back to the opera house. And, there were parts where I really thought we were. Early on, when Protag first meets Sador, he's like, do you like opera? And then Sador's like, what do you know about opera on the boat, in the boat scene, stuff like that. I'm like, oh, we're going to go to the opera house again later. We're going to get there. And I'm hoping we're going to here, but he's drawing something else. It doesn't look like the opera house thing. Looks like there's a bunch of soldiers. I don't know. This is different. So no opera house was a bit of a bummer. Again, I don't know what they could do to make it so there weren't inverted people in the thing, but maybe they were inside the crawl space. Maybe there were places we couldn't see them. And it'd be cool to watch a reverse shot of the heads that went down to watch them all go up. Things like that. Maybe if Neil was inverted in that scene and we see him save him. People pitched really good ideas for this movie that I don't know if Nolan was really thinking into and if he brought off to the side. But, I don't know, again, if he intended to not emotionally invest us or what have you. But, some people said that, the opening scene would have worked really well if, Protag is investigating the inverted bullet stuff as a result of losing a friend to the inverted bullet thing. And I came to the notion of, it would be really interesting if they did go back to the opera thing and Protag figures out, or Neil or someone figures out that they're the person who has to take the shot to end this person's life to help still win the war or something like that, that they have to do this, that it's for the greater good. And just this emotional tie-in, those are the things that this film kind of did miss. It kind of did. I love the speaking to the audience right here. I forget exactly what he says. He says there is no first wave. Oh gosh, I forget the way he does his accent. There is no first. I can't do it. Blue team and red team operate simultaneously. Don't get on the chopper or don't get on the helicopter or whatever if you can't stop thinking in linear terms. And I like that. Speaking to the audience really as well. This is the moment when he says, "Yeah, that's us." He says, "Yeah, that's us." Right there. I said, "Holy crap. That's the guy from Kick-Ass." And I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the change in his voice, the softness in his eyes. I don't know what it was. I said, that's Aaron Taylor Johnson. That was the moment for me. And I didn't know he was in the movie beforehand, credits-wise, so I had to look it up and be sure. I'm like, that's him, right? Yeah, it was. So there was that. I was not a good listener beforehand when it came to what Kat was doing in this scenario. I didn't know why she couldn't kill him. I didn't really pay attention to what was in the bag and whatever. I was not a good listener for this bit earlier on. I had to watch the movie over again to connect that part. Part of it was I didn't know where they were in time. I had trouble knowing that these two parts were the same moment in time, because what I was asking myself at one point was, how are they on a walkie together at different days of the year? Kat's on the 14th. Because I thought she was going to keep inverting. And I thought this guy was going to be a day ahead or something. I didn't know where we were time-wise. So I thought they were at different times here. I do like this scene. I like this scene a lot. I think it cements Nolan's good bits of action. But like everyone else, it's weird because we don't see enemies very often. We just saw some enemies there. And anytime we do see enemies, we don't see people kill enemies. And some people's questions are, which is a big question. I mean, there's an answer to it too. How do you kill an enemy who's inverted? Can you just shoot at them? And it's something you have to think about, because if you're inverted, if you shoot at someone who's inverted, that means that those people who perceive themselves to be inverted are dead, and then to themselves they come back to life, and that's not possible. So the only thing that you could do is you could shoot, like if someone's laying there dead, I guess you could fire the bullet. It's kind of like the Neil thing. When Neil comes back to life, you could fire the bullet and watch them come back to life. You could shoot at them and injure them, or reverse injure them, I guess, to not injure them. You could shoot at and injure them because that could be a concept of they wouldn't be dead at the time. So you could do that. But that was kind of the troublesome part here of when they're shooting at people, unless they're shooting forward with forward and you don't see them kill people. I mean, look, they're facing each other right now. You see them, but, what are they doing to each other? Can they kill each other? it's just kind of weird. I get that the whole idea of this scene was to be a distraction to let the bomb go off and whatever. I understood that. Again, I didn't understand the cat portion. It's unfortunate. Didn't like the aspect ratio switching here, too. It was the most jarring aspect. No pun intended. I didn't mean to say that. It was the most jarring portion of this for me that was like, stop doing the back and forth, please. When I watched it in IMAX and home video. It was a time where I was like, couldn't you shoot this in IMAX? I don't know. Or couldn't you not do the back and forth? Could you find a way to do one versus the other? I don't like Sador's theme music either. It's okay. I think it's different. I like the ominous bit to it. I don't like the breathing. If you listen to the soundtrack, you get that. And every so often you hear it in this movie, and I don't like it. See, this is a shot where I like the reverse movement feel and stuff. You can tell that people are running backwards because they can't run as fast, and this is forward. But if you go back and rewind it, guys, you're going to get the feel of the camera person being backwards, if that makes sense. You know, it's not a very good, I don't know how to say it. It doesn't look natural. It's clearly backwards. And look, we know things are supposed to be shot backwards, but I get pulled out. I'm like, it's clearly backwards. That shot that's supposed to be reversed. Like, this is clearly look at this camera movement. It's clearly backwards. Instead of going fast camera movement to correcting yourself slowly, it goes slow to a fast jolt, and it's hard to explain. But it seems like they want to go the other direction when moving, when they're actually not doing it. Anyway, yeah, I did have trouble with this moment and stuff. I wasn't feeling out. I didn't know which Sador we're looking at here. I watching this movie the first time was kind of tough here, and I know I'm talking about first experiences a lot, but if you wanted to listen to some of the commentary stuff, that's kind of where I was at. Yeah, I didn't know what Cat was doing here though. I was like, keep him alive for what? Blah blah blah. Just kill his butt. Whatever. I guess they kill him, then the movie can't happen. I don't know. This is the part where I didn't try to understand it, and I felt it, and I just said, all right, I'll let what happens happen. And for all the high stakes of this movie, and I think people agree that the higher the stakes are with movies, sometimes the less impactful it feels. If it's end of the world, that's a little too big for our minds sometimes. And the higher the stakes are for the movie, the less I'm like, oh, phew, that's a relief. A little bit, except for Endgame. Except for Endgame, because it's a built up over time. You know, people think with this thing too. So they fire a rocket. Did they kill him? I think no. I think what happens is, because you can't kill him, right? He has to be inverted to get to that stage to fire the thing. So I think what happens is that guy, when he's inverted, he sees a collapsed thing come to form, and he's like, okay, cool, I'll fire out this window. But I don't think they can kill him. I don't think they killed him. What they did was they entrapped him from being able to fire that way, I guess. I don't know. I did love that shot. My mind got blown several times here. That shot of, I don't know, it might have been Protag, but someone flipping from that rock. The flipping from the rock, the person getting trapped in the wall, and the building reassembling itself and collapsing. Those three shots, they're all structural, and they're all involving inversion. Those three shots were increasing my headache like twofold each time. It was just like, boom, there's another one. Boom, there's another one. See, I don't know if you can see the camera movement here. It doesn't feel right. I don't know why it doesn't feel right. It's not because it's not because everybody else. The camera movement doesn't feel right there. Oh, person gets trapped in the wall. I don't think she gets trapped in the wall. The other person does. And you know, I don't know what trapped in the wall means. I don't know if they're stuck in the wall or if they're just I don't really know. I don't really know if they're like, oh, okay, I'll just go find an exit out, or if they're actually stuck in the wall and they were killed at that moment. That the cement literally barricaded them in. I'd have to go frame by frame to check it out. So let's see here. Did they get stuck in the wall? I can't tell. Maybe that's a room that has no open doors, so they're stuck. And people ask a good question too, and I think they've said answers, and I don't know what the answer is still. But people asked a good question regarding the building reassembling itself to destroy itself as well. And that question is, so was that building ever truly built? Because if you look at it from the perspective of where we're looking at right now, the red team looking at the building, it's already destroyed because it was destroyed by the blue team. And the only time that it's back together is when it assembles itself. For a split second, it's doing it right now. It's assembling itself. So for a split second, it's fully assembled before then they shoot off the other part. But when was this part of the building then assembled? Did they build it this way? By the way, I just noticed right now there are people inside that building. So when they're taking out the building, they're also taking out the people inside the building. I thought they were just shooting the building for the distraction's sake. You know what I mean? Like, there's a distraction, let's go. You know what else that I don't think they established very well was they talked about the algorithm. We saw one piece of the algorithm, but we've never seen what the algorithm looks like. So when we see it, it's like, all right, what does that thing do? We know it's a black box and such, but seeing what the algorithm looks like beforehand and not just one piece, I thought would have been a really, really nice. I think there were things that Nolan did not establish a lot with this film every so often. This truck thing did make me realize that was someone else who's trying to warn them about something. I didn't know it was Neil, but there was a warning bit here. I did have questions. If that was the only entrance to the tunnel, I still don't know. There must be a way he can dig in and dig out, but I must know because I'll say this in several different ways. The question was, how does our inverted Neil that we see, open the gate and stuff, come back to life and open the gate, how does he get out? Because he has to get out to go to the inverted thing because he has to invert to go in. So the real question is, how does Neil get in if that part's barricaded? He is the person driving that Hummer. So how does he get inside? Oh, sorry, he's not the person. He's not driving the Hummer then and there to do it. He drives the Hummer, he goes and saves them. At some point later, he goes and inverts. But it's still barricaded, right? The whole idea is no one else knows that, or no one knows the contents of what's underneath there. The only two people of the, what do they call it? The tactical unit? What do they call them? Ives calls them the something unit. I don't know. The something unit. The two people who go down there, they're the only two people who know the contents of what's down there. They're the only people who need to know. And I don't know if other people are supposed to know that they're under there when it buries, right? They were supposed to let the bomb go off. No one else was supposed to inspect what was down there. The whole point was to get that thing out unscathed without anyone else knowing about it. So the goal was these two who are afraid of the bomb going off on them or the world ending or whatever, is that there's no way that they should be able to get out of there because the whole idea is the secret will die with Sator. That it'll bury them too and kill them, the only two people who are supposed to know what's in there. And then no one's going to know to go dig in there, go, get the capsule, get the algorithm and stuff. And some people say that effectively if Sator killed himself when the algorithm was dropped in, then in a what's happened format, it should in effect end the world then and there. Even though it's going to take 200, 300 years for future people to do it and invert it, once it's trapped in that notion, then what's going to happen is that bit. So if it drops inside, which is something I didn't understand the first time watching this. I'm looking at that algorithm piece. I'm looking at Volkov trying to pull on that string. I don't really understand what's going on down here too much. I know it's about the algorithm, but in the capsule, but because the Sator dying thing I didn't really know about with the fitness tracker, this was hard for me. And by the way, that timer is going to come into play when there are 10 seconds left and there are like 40 seconds left. So we'll count that together. But see, in this moment, pretty soon the walkie is going to come up here, right here. The walkie's going to come up. So look, Sator never talked to Protag for the next, what time is it now? 2:10. So 35 minutes Sator hasn't talked to Protag. His only encounters with him were on the yacht and on the freeway. Just remember that. Those were the only encounters. So I feel like Sator's trying to get really personal with him. It's almost a personal thing. And I feel like the one part with burying Sator until later in the film is you don't get enough between them. I guess that's why they had to be on the yacht for so long, to get a lot of stuff between them. But, there just wasn't a lot. So is this Protag versus Sator? Is this is this future people versus people of now? And it's kind of one of those bits where, is this part earned? And by the way, I couldn't hear things Sator was saying in the first and second time I saw this movie there. I heard a couple things. The third time again, I heard it all. I even heard and understood that the reason Sator has pancreatic cancer is from all the radiation that he got from digging up in the rubble to try and find more things for future people, pieces of the algorithm. He had to go to the radiation sites. So, those are stuff I didn't know. But when I heard it the third time, I pieced that together. That was kind of nice. And I like what he says. Again, it's weird. Nolan spends so much time, I'm sure, he spent some time writing this stuff for us to, I like the dialogue, I do. But for us to not hear it and for him to spend the time doing it, I'm like, make sure we can hear it. I don't know. That's just a thing. Maybe the music's getting in the way. I don't know. Anyway, there's a moment, and it's about to come up, but because I can't hear what they're saying, I don't know when it's going to be. But Sator says something like, my greatest sin or my greatest, displeasure or something like that was bringing a child into the world that I knew that was ending. Do you think God will forgive me? Now, when that moment happens, the very next shot after that is a shot of Neil. And I know people can think of that as coincidence, but movies do that a lot. And I don't have an example. You know what? I have an example right now because I just saw the movie just a couple days ago. I just binge watched the Matrix movies again. And in the Matrix Revolutions, in the third one, I don't know the names, Commander Locke says, this is when there's the war between man versus machine. Okay, so they just talk about it. So here's the shot of Neil after, I brought a son into the world, blah, blah, blah. Do you think God will forgive me? And there's Neil trying to save the world. That's ending. That is, guys, that is not a coincidence. If Neil is Max, if Nolan's intent was for Neil to be Max, Nolan's not going to go oh yeah, look at that. No, if Neil's intended to be Max, everything that we've talked about, everything I've brought up so far is absolutely not a coincidence. Anyway, in the Matrix Revolutions, Commander Locke sees that there's a ship that's coming in to Zion, and he says something like, that can't be. That's a trick. That's a mechanical line. No one can pilot a mechanical. And the next shot we see was Jada Pinkett Smith's character Niobe. You see her flying. Oh, she can pilot the mechanical. It's by that's what you're telling your audience when you say that. You don't have to say anything. It's nonverbal, and in that transition, we know exactly what that means. And that is exactly what happened in that moment there. That is a big one. That is a big one. So yeah, I didn't watch Volkov put the algorithm piece inside here. I didn't know what he was dropping. I thought he was going to drop something that was going to explode. And I just wasn't sure. When it wasn't dropping and he was going at this red thing, I was like, man, why can't he pull at it? This is one of those things. Why can't he get that red piece? Hang on. You'll see the loop a bunch of times. It's like, why can't he get it? Get that piece. It happens more than once. It's kind of weird. Yeah, in the opening opera scene, Neil is the person in the opening opera scene. I'll be honest, when I saw the inverted thing, I didn't know that Nolan was showing us a shot of that talisman with the red drawstring thing. And they already passed by it. Like, oh, why can't you pull on that string? Get that loop thing, man. Why haven't you won yet? Use your adrenaline. Risk your life to make sure that happens. It's just crazy. Anyway, so I didn't know that talisman was a thing. Only when they were checking the bag for grenades or that body for grenades did I first see that talisman. And then obviously in the end when they show it again, I'm like, oh, that was him. Which is kind of this nice little but it's not this kind of thing to me. So not big twist for me here. For me, the twists in this movie were the revelations of going back to moments of Protag being in the Saab, of them going back to Oslo and Protag fighting himself. I think those little revelations as we watched the movie and the development of it were the nice aha kinds of things. And the Neil one was another nice aha, but it wasn't this massive thing. I think if Nolan, and again, I'm questioning, the one thing that draws me back from the Neil being Max thing is, why did Nolan hide it so much? Why couldn't he slipped in the one, if you want Neil to be Max, don't you think that it would have been owed to the crowd somehow, or to audiences, to know that as well? It doesn't have to be this big thing, but even, I don't know, as Neil's walking away, pull on the thing, dude. Oh, yeah, now you're dead. You can't pull on the thing. I don't want him to, but how did you not? I didn't understand it. I'm like, what is he doing? When Neil's walking to the helicopter and he's going to walk to his fate in a way, it's all, I wish Protag could, for once, for him to be smart and connect something, I wish he could go there and go Max? And Neil doesn't have to turn around. Not you betcha, it's me. Just something, just the audience just goes oh, that's son. That would have been the biggest twist of the film. That absolutely would have. And the only other reason I can think of that he might not have done it is if he's planning to make a sequel. Now, I don't know if I want a sequel to this film. I do know if they make a sequel and Neil's we'll run into some stuff and things like that. I sure hope that means that he'll film that. And I sure hope that we see the connection that Neil is Max. I hope he's still going to use that. And you know what? That would strengthen this movie. So, some people say sequels can't destroy or strengthen movies that came before it. Yes, they can. They can change your perception and inkling and stuff on both of them. Something like, well, that was a waste of time. They spent all that time doing this, and that, only for that to just in the beginning sequel. I don't know if you guys have seen Terminator Dark Fate. People will say, well, all of T2 was a waste. From the opening of that film, all of T2 was a waste. So it destroys your thought of T2 going like, well, all things happen in T2 just for that to happen. Now that's canon. You know, things like that can happen for sure. I just talked about The Matrix. Some people think that, you know, Neo being the one and stuff in the beginning, he feels a little weaker later. He's not fighting as fast and is not almighty. And of course, in The Matrix Reloaded, when like the function of the one wasn't meant to, the prophecy wasn't true. The function of the one wasn't meant to end everything. He can't really change the world as he saw fit. Okay, let's go ahead and watch this timer. How's this timer going? I missed it. 4, 3, oh darn it. I missed the timer moments. 2, 1. All right, there it is. All right. That's one of the instances of like, why can't they film a clock? And I don't know if that digital clock was CGI'd for the time in, or if they actually filmed it and they could get the time. Why can't they film a clock, go and splice and edit this film together and say, okay, this is going to occur 11 seconds before the explosion. Let's make sure to hit it on 11. I can't wait to see a movie that actually gets those times right. And if you guys can tell me a movie that gets time like that right, from there for 5 minutes left and stuff from the very beginning, or the movie 88 Minutes. I wish that the movie 88 Minutes was like right when the movie starts, it's like Al Pacino opens his phone, goes, hello, and it's like, you have 88 minutes. And then whatever, and then 88 minutes later when that time ends, whatever happens here. Oh, there's a shot of Max. But anyway, Max watches her off the boat there. And this was kind of a cool shot thing for me. No, I didn't know that was Kat. The shot that they give when they dive off the boat the first time is not the same shot in frame, and it goes a lot faster the other time. They really tried to hide it, but I guess it was obvious for enough people. Kat was speaking pretty fast during that scene as well. Anyway, so, you know, they saved the world, right? But I'm not up and cheering. It was kind of weird because with that explosion that happened that caved everything in, I was like, oh, they got it out for that explosion? Okay, that's great. Obviously, it was more about this piece, the algorithm here. But, you know, you weren't feeling the impact of the moment. And when I say you, I am going to speak for a lot of people there. You're not feeling, unless you're watching the movie again and you're like, that was the moment when they saved the world. Just not feeling the impact of the moment personally. And, you know, and I do have a question on that whole Sador thing. If the, let's see, how do I say it? Let's say the algorithm, so, you know, they said keep Sador alive long enough. How do I say this? Keep Sador alive long enough so that when it falls in or whatever, that the world doesn't end. But I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know what I'm sitting there thinking. I'm sitting there thinking, well, if they don't kill Sador now and if it falls in, he'll kill himself later anyway. But if we can save, you know, if they could save themselves, if they could get out, if they could have gotten out of there, but not have gotten the algorithm out of there, what's stopping them from excavating it later? I don't know if that's the word. Excavate? I don't know if that's the word. From getting it out later. Right? But I guess the idea is when he dies and the capsule goes in. I already mentioned that. When he dies and the capsule goes in. Okay, I guess there's that thing. This standoff didn't make sense to me. I didn't hear the first time when Aaron Taylor and Ives stated that anyone who knows the contents of the capsule is not going to make it out alive, whatever. So Protag kind of repeated it there, which was kind of nice. But the whole kill yourself thing, I was like, I don't know. Isn't there a way you can destroy those? Can you just invert them back in the past more? Bury them under the White House? I don't know. And then the White House isn't built, and then someone else inverted can go find it there. I'm sure they contacted a lot of different people. Here's another one with Neil. Neil says, are you going to go back for her? Or something like that. I forget specifically. I'm not hearing it. But, you know, are you going to go back for Kat? No, it's too dangerous. Even from afar? Even from afar. And then Neil, it almost feels like Neil has a moment where he's now going to do something else now. He's going to be the person who's going to invert and stuff. I feel like it was almost a reaction as to what Protag was saying, and it's almost in a way to try and change Protag's mind, and it does. Protag kind of becomes the guardian angel for Neil, for Max and Kat, and there's the talisman. I was like, oh, poor guy. I didn't cry or anything. I still haven't. I hear people say, oh, I cried during this part. I can't get to that moment. And, you know, people make the connection in the very beginning when he first meets Neil, whatever, and, you know, he's like Diet Coke and, or a vodka tonic and a Diet Coke. He's like, you never drink on the job, whatever else. I prefer soda water. No, you don't. I do like his smile during that moment. And I like the second time that I saw that, I was like, Ah, I see that he knows him. And he knows him so well because he was Max and he grew up with him. He's kind of like his surrogate father, in a way. But anyway, with that part with Neil, he's talking about Kat again. He's like, hey, I'm Max. He's not saying it literally, but he's kind of implying, like, hey, I'm Max, and I'd love for you to watch me from afar and save me. And what I'm going to do is going to change the world. And you can do something to change the world as well, because what's happened. And you're going to be the person, you're going to be the person who is going to start Tenet and save us all. And you are going to teach me, Neil, who was Max, the concepts of physics and inversion and Estonian. No, he might have already known Estonian. And, the Pompeii thing. Pompeii and lava. Pompeii is where the Sador Square is. And I know that could be an Easter egg for other things, but that was Max who said it. Max, Sador, Pompeii, all that stuff. Pompeii specifically. There's, the Sador Square was found there. Now, Neil says, see you at the beginning. And I'm not hearing this right now, but there's a monologue going on that says, like, we are the ones that could have been. We are saving the ones where they could have been. I'll see you at the beginning. And not that this is the beginning, but this is, this is the beginning, because this is the, gosh, how do I say it? Neil stated that this whole operation is a temporal pincer, and it's Protag's temporal pincer, and that middle part was the halfway point of it. So now we're in the second act. This is Protag experiencing everything that he needs to do to form Tenet to get the saved world part. So in a way, this is the beginning. No, it's not chronologically the beginning, but it's Protag's beginning for what he has to do to make the saved world thing occur. And see you at the beginning. Well, Protag is about to see Max. See you at the beginning, right? This Protag right here is not the same Protag in the beginning that we see. So when he says see you at the beginning, who the heck would he be talking to? Clearly Protag does see another Neil, and clearly that Neil is not someone else as well. But I like the transition again, going to this scene where Neil's the narrator above, like it's the bomb that didn't go off or whatever that truly saves the world. The one where they're showing this lovely moment to me, which I wish was shot in IMAX, but that's why I have a cropped version of them walking away hand in hand. It's not a huge moment thing. It's not an IMAX. It's not a loud score or anything like that. But as Neil is Max, he sees him at the beginning. He's going to do everything that's going to get a result of that to happen so they can save the world and such. Not the most emotionally impactful film, but also one that's kind of, it can give that semblance if you want it to. So really, for the naysayers, I say, why doubt it? Why make it worse for yourself? You're intentionally making the film worse, and you're talking about things that are improbabilities, and you can't speak in those terms, only in impossibilities. And I don't think I see any impossibilities there personally. There were a lot of other things I'm sure I could have brought up with this film, and obviously this is me speaking through. I'm glad I just got through this. I sure hope I hit the record button as I'm watching. So I'll talk through this here, and I don't know what else I want to say here, but Nolan did a lot of changes to a lot of things. He had changed in not changed in cinematographer. He kept Hoyte van Hoytema, but he changed him in Interstellar, so he had him for Interstellar, Dunkirk, and now. No returning actors, really, except for Michael Caine. Oh, there's Michael Caine's name. No real returning... Oh, and Kenneth Branagh. Okay, there were returning actors. But, the main three were different. It didn't have Tom Hardy. Didn't have Cillian Murphy. Didn't have Christian Bale. Didn't have Leo. Didn't have Hugh Jackman, who they only had him once. Didn't have Al Pacino. Didn't have Guy Pearce. I guess he was a one and done with a lot of people there. But I don't know if he plans on doing a sequel. I don't know. I don't know if a sequel would be good. I don't know if he has a thought in mind with it. I have no idea. One thing I do want to mention here, they just showed the title Tenet. They have an interesting placement. Nolan has an interesting placement for the title in the beginning of the film, after the prologue and after Protag tries to kill himself. He's never placed the title in that place. You've seen the title at the beginning of Memento, at the beginning of Insomnia, like as the screen appears. Memento, Insomnia, The Prestige, Dunkirk is in the beginning. But you get Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises, and Inception in the end. Interstellar's in the beginning. But it's kind of in the very, very beginning. This one came after the prologue. And there is intent when Nolan does that, and I wrote about this on Reddit too. I feel like if I read out loud what that thing was, I think that you guys might go like, oh, that's interesting, because I'm not perfect with what it is right now. I feel like I can't say it perfectly to you unless I actually do find the ones where I made the statements that I made. It's an old post though. I don't know if I'll be able to find it. I see some things where it said people stop saying that Neil's Max. I'm sure I said some stuff there. I don't know what they all are. There's one where I have all those names in a list as well. It's a big thing there. Title sequence, title. Let's see, title placement. I don't know if I can find this thing, but okay. So let's put it this way. At the end of Batman Begins, what happens? Batman Begins, right? I'm clearly he was Batman for half the movie, but this is really a time where he has the bat symbol. He's working with Commissioner Gordon, or Lieutenant Gordon, I think at the time. He's working with Lieutenant Gordon. He's going to be stopping the organized crime, and now the Joker's in place. And this is truly, Batman is now cemented into Gotham. And I don't know if he's accepted as a part of Gotham, but he's a thing there. People will see him, look up to him. At the end of The Dark Knight, literally Gary Oldman's last lines are "A Dark Knight," and it's like boom, The Dark Knight. That's when he turns and he says, I gotta make sure that to maintain Harvey Dent's White Knight status here, I gotta be the Dark Knight. Boom, right at the end. The Dark Knight Rises. You can either say the death of Christian Bale's Batman, not the death of Christian Bale itself, but just terminating that Batman, and then Joseph Gordon-Levitt going in and becoming the new Batman. I know people say he's the new Robin. He's not the new Robin. His name is Robin. He's going to be the next Batman, or Nightwing, but I would just say, all right, he's going to take up the mantle. The whole idea was Batman could be anybody. That was a message that they definitely clearly were saying throughout the movie. So The Dark Knight Rises. He rises in a platform. He, I don't know. We were thinking maybe that means he's going to die. I don't know. But, The Dark Knight Rises. Okay, that's good. Interstellar. I don't know. I said really specific things on it, and I don't know what they all were now. That's why I want to go back to it. But Inception. The Inception was performed at the end. Some people think it was Inception on the audience, that it was an Inception on Cobb. There's an Inception there. Memento in the very beginning, showing that this thing's going to be trippy backwards. There's a photo that's going backwards too. That's literally a picture, a memento to keep. Insomnia. That's, we see Al Pacino wake up at that one time, and he never goes to sleep again. The Prestige is an interesting one because we get that, and someone told me that it's not pronounced in media res. It's like like on medias ras. I forgot what he said, but in media res we show the hats there, and the Prestige is the whole. It's the third part of the act that where we show you something. We show you something, and then you notice that we're cloning things as well. You don't, or actually, I don't know if they're cloning something, but they're using a machine, and you want to be fooled. I'm seeing the Kodak film icon thing, by the way. If you're listening to the credits here, I got 25 seconds left. I don't have to end here, but I don't know. So all the films, so title placement was important. So I'm thinking about Tenet. Tenet, what's the title placement for after the prologue there? And I don't know. That's when he joins Tenet. That's when Tenet's formed. I guess that's an idea of it. I said a lot of different things, and I can't think of what they are anymore. I really can't. And so my film ended here. Thank you for those who have been listening. I don't know what I want to talk about here. I really want to try and find these placement, the where I said these, so I can just describe the title sequence stuff. Maybe I can do the Neil thing. I don't know if I can, but those are the last bits I can say. There, I could do a whole nother commentary, and I could say completely different things next time. And I know this time here I was talking about a lot of Neil being Max. I was talking a lot about how Nolan just, did things. Maximilian. I see something on Maximilian here. I don't know if these are some of it. I spoke a lot about my first experience in this film, things like that. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this, guys. I didn't see another commentary track on YouTube, so I sure hope that you enjoyed what you heard on this. I'm slowly closing out installing because I want to see if I can find this part on Neil is Captain Sador's son. Yeah, I can't find. There are a lot of times that I posted it, but I can't find the actual one. These say comment replies, so I don't know where it is, guys, for the title sequence thing. I do know that I mentioned it somewhere, but there's intent for the title sequence there as well, and whatever it is, I'm sure he had his good reason. All right, guys, thank you for listening to this. I know I'm not going to listen to it. I don't like to hear myself, or I don't like to hear something I already stated. So I hope that you enjoy this commentary track, guys. If there's anything you want to say in the comments below, or you want to address or speak up on, trust me, there are a lot of things I avoided. I didn't speak in the current a lot with this movie. And tell me that I'm wrong somewhere too as well. I'd appreciate it. You know, I don't do these commentary tracks, but I just did one, and I'd love to do one with Redditor sometime. If you guys would like to do another commentary with me sometime and we want to record something, I have the tech to set that thing up, and we can all talk together, capture our recordings and make that happen. All right, thank you guys for being with me. I hope you did enjoy Tenet. You probably wouldn't watch the commentary if you didn't enjoy Tenet. And make a commentary for yourself, guys. This was interesting, and this definitely got my mind distracted from some other things I'm focusing on in life here. All right, take care.